This man is on a completely different level. After dying and being reborn, he became a tycoon of the supernatural world. While others grind themselves to the bone for money, he follows the commands of a system. Just to survive a dungeon instance, he casually throws around cash. He uses his immense wealth to make even ghosts bend to his will. Starting with 1 million nether coins, he's on the path to becoming the world's #1 ghost tamer. Let's rewind the story. Our main character is named Lin Yu. He had just woken up, letting out a deep sigh. He began his morning routine, just like any other day. But this time, a system panel appeared above his head, showing a balance of nearly 1 million yuan. It's been 3 years since Lin Yu died and came back to life. He approached the sink with a look of utter boredom. Being reborn with a cheat system sounds amazing, right? But something was terribly wrong. 9 trillion nether coins? Do I have to wait until I'm dead again to finally enjoy this fortune? This so-called hack was useless. At that moment, Lin Yu hung his head, a wave of despair washing over him. He didn't want to die again. Suddenly, a drop of blood fell with a soft tap. His eyes shot wide open. He looked up to see the mirror. Before him was now covered in bloody streaks. What the hell is this? Lin Yu defensively stumbled backward a few steps. In moments, the streaks of blood converged into a sinister text. Congratulations, you have been unfortunately selected to participate in the 5th wave of the horror game. Dungeon countdown commencing. 15 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. Lin Yu froze completely. Unlike the familiar feeling of his own system, which seemed to come from his soul, he intuitively knew that these 2 blood-soaked lines did not belong to his god-tier system. If it was his system, he'd know the contents of the message without even opening his eyes. Besides, the text was written in a foreign language. Lin Yu reached out and touched it. A strange sensation pulsed through him. He felt a powerful force beckoning him, an aura that was sinister, icy, strange, and bloodthirsty. Lin Yu stared at his fingertip, which now radiated a familiar energy. It was the scent of death itself. He forced himself to remain calm. Tomorrow night, he would have to enter this twisted game. The blood-red text confirmed he was in the 5th wave of participants. This meant the game had been going on for a while. There was a high chance that some information existed online. He had to find out just what this demonic thing was. But first, he needed to investigate the horror game. With that thought, Lin Yu quickly searched for information on the internet. And just as he predicted, although the government had tried to block the news, they couldn't erase all traces of it. This could also be a lifeline for those who were truly chosen by the horror game. A wealthy man dying. A mysterious vanishing community. A murderer who skins his victims. All connected to a terrifying horror game. The beta test announcement for this death game was posted 3 days ago. It read, "My dear countrymen, if you are reading this letter of blood, I regret to inform you that the horror game has descended, is real. The mysterious events happening all over the world are the work of the game's players. The military has established the Central Investigation Organization, number 9, precisely to deal with these players. Those chosen by the game will be thrown into a dungeon instance filled with vengeful ghosts and forced to survive. If you violate the rules of that instance, you will be relentlessly hunted by those ghosts. Every time, at least half of the people in the dungeon will die. But the survivors will have a chance to obtain the power of a ghost tamer, controlling ghosts themselves. Whether you live or die depends entirely on your own abilities. Good luck, Lin." Yu's eyes were locked on the bloody post. If this game world truly had ghosts, they probably couldn't exist in the real world. In a way, he could see gaining entry to this game as a good thing. A chance to obtain the power to fight against ghosts. He thought to himself that with his god-tier system, his chances of survival would surely be a little higher. Although Lin Yu vaguely sensed that the nether coins issued by his cheat system might have been prepared for this very game, he wasn't sure if it would allow him to just sit back and relax. What's more, what if a mere mortal committed a crime and tried to bribe a ghost with underworld money, only for the ghost to kill itself to steal the cash? These were all things he didn't know. He couldn't help but frown. In any case, he knew he couldn't rely too much on the system. Digging up information had taken a lot of Lin Yu's time. He glanced at the clock. It was almost time to enter the mission. He didn't have much time left, so he could only throw on a shirt, pull on some pants, and slip on his Converse shoes. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The clock struck 12. The system activated the dungeon instance. The sky and earth trembled, and the ground beneath his feet shattered into pieces. Welcome to the endless plains of horror. This dungeon instance is named the Yellow Springs Hotel. The name certainly lived up to its reputation. The mission required him to survive for 2 days. The current number of participants is 6. Briefing complete. Lin Yu landed softly at the mission location. Looking up, he saw it. The Yellow Springs Hotel. Just as he was taking it in, he found himself standing in a dark and desolate courtyard reeking of fresh blood. The bluestone tiles were stained with dried gore. The nearby flower garden bloomed with vibrant red spider lilies, swaying in the breeze. The dilapidated wooden door was ajar, obscuring the scene behind it. Next to him stood 5 other people, their faces pale with fear. They were all dressed in different styles. There was a middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes, slightly overweight, exuding the air of a successful businessman. A young man with flashy blonde hair and tattoos covering his arms, looking like a street punk. A quiet, burly man with a beard, wearing a sweater, cautiously scanning his surroundings. And a mature woman with an average appearance, but revealing clothes, next to a petite, pink-haired college student who was trembling with her head down. Everyone looked at each other, the terror clear in their eyes. Even the blonde punk couldn't help but scream in panic. It was obvious that everyone understood the dangers of the horror game. Finally, the silent, bearded man spoke up first. "It seems everyone here is a newbie this time." He paused, letting out a heavy sigh. Hearing his words, the eyes of the other 5, including Lin Yu, lit up. The mature woman composed herself, suppressed her fear, and forced a gentle smile. "So, big brother, this isn't your first time here, is it?" The bearded man nodded, confirming her suspicion. He was one of the 4th wave players, forced to enter an instance once every half-month. He had already survived 5 dungeons. A survivor who had cleared 5 dungeons. This identity made everyone feel a little more at ease. But the bearded man gently shook his head, as if seeing through their thoughts. He said, "Don't get too optimistic. I may have survived 5 times, but each one was by the skin of my teeth. In my first dungeon, there were 20 people. Only myself and 1 other rookie made it out alive. Even the veteran who was leading our team died." Before he could even gasp, the man raised his arm. It was a grotesque canvas of blackened fissures, revealing rotting muscle and even bone beneath. This was the price of survival. The 2 women covered their mouths in terror, nearly screaming aloud. The flicker of hope they just had was instantly extinguished. Even Lam Vu was slightly stunned. However, he quickly regained his composure, stepping forward to politely commend the man's skill, asking if he had any experience to share with the rookies. The bearded uncle pulled down his sleeve. He looked at the 4 players who couldn't hide their despair and simply shook his head. Only when he saw Lam Vu, still maintaining a cool head, did he feel a sense of relief. This newbie had a stronger mentality than the others. In the dungeons, sometimes a slight psychological edge is all it takes to decide between life and death. Adjusting his sleeve, he spoke slowly. "All is not lost. As a veteran, I can offer you newbies a few warnings. If you don't satisfy a ghost's killing rule, you might get hurt, but you won't die. First, the phantoms in this game only kill those who violate the rules. Second, the basic rules will be given directly to the players." Lam Vu nodded slightly. It matched his own investigation. But hearing these words from a 5-time survivor gave them a whole new level of credibility. However, the veteran never mentioned the link between the number of rules and the dungeon's difficulty. Lam Vu wondered if he didn't know, or if he was intentionally hiding it to prevent panic. Or maybe it was all just a bluff. Lam Vu raised no objections. This bearded man wasn't entirely trustworthy. To survive 5 rounds, he had to possess an incredibly strong will to live. Just then, a door creaked open, grabbing everyone's attention. An old man with ashen gray skin and a face like a roadmap of wrinkles and dark spots entered the courtyard. A chilling, raspy laugh echoed from his throat, terrifying everyone. "Well, hello, my darlings. Welcome to the Yellow Springs Inn." He introduced himself as the manager, here on the mistress's orders to assign their tasks. Although the old man looked like he had 1 foot in the grave, everyone could feel the oppressive terror radiating from his aura. Lam Vu felt as if he was facing a dangerous suitor, predator. A primal fear, an instinct from his very soul, screamed that this old man was a true demon. The voice, more ragged than a dying cough, spoke again. The decrepit old man said that before they start their important work, there were a few rules they needed to know. First, whether they were assigned to the front desk or the kitchen, they must do their best. If anyone slacked off, his face suddenly twisted into a ghastly grin as he warned, "The mistress will not spare you." As he said this, Lam Vu noticed a flicker of fear in the old man's cloudy eyes. It seemed even he was terrified of this so-called mistress. As expected, she was a demon far more powerful than him. Even this manager was a demon, and a subordinate at that, meaning the mistress, could strike him down at any moment. 𝒉 silently committed this fact to memory. The old man continued. The items in this inn are old and haven't been repaired. They break easily. If you happen to damage anything, you will compensate for it based on its value. And finally, always remember, the customer is God. Never, ever defy a guest's wishes. The mistress won't blame you for upsetting a guest. But many of the patrons we serve here have volatile tempers. If they find a reason to punish you, the mistress will not step in to save you. After speaking, the old man cracked a wide, toothless grin, implying that if anyone had questions, they should raise their hand. The bearded man said nothing. Naturally, 𝒉 and the others didn't dare to ask a thing. The old man nodded, satisfied, and began assigning their duties. He pointed a bony finger at the bearded man. You're broad and strong, perfect for manual labor. He ordered the man to the kitchen. Go straight and take a left. The bearded uncle gave the others a look that said take care, and walked inside. Next, he looked at the mature woman and the blonde young man, telling them they were in charge of cleaning the guest rooms. Go outside and turn right. He instructed them to find a Mistress Zhang in the warehouse to get their tools. The old man then turned to the middle-aged man, noting that he looked quite knowledgeable. He told him to go to the second floor and wait in the cashier's room to be taught how to manage the accounts. The man in the suit quickly departed. Finally, only 𝒉 and the small, pink-haired girl, who kept her head down, remained. The old man stared at them for a long time, finally speaking slowly. You two little children, with your tender skin, would be perfect as waiters in the main hall. He was sure taking orders and delivering food was something they could do without being taught. He told 𝒉 and the girl to go straight through to the front lobby. The wicked smile on his withered face was filled with pure malice, as if he was eagerly anticipating them to make a mistake on their very first day. The sight alone was enough to inspire dread, but coupled with his sinister grin, it sent a chill down 𝒉's spine. The small girl beside him was trembling uncontrollably. Let's go, he said to the pink-haired girl, whose legs could barely support her, and led her towards the lobby. After passing the old manager and walking through a wooden door, they found themselves in a dark, dilapidated room, filled with junk piled high on both sides. 𝒉 looked up and saw an ancient, 3-story building. This must be the main structure of the Yellow Springs Inn. It seemed the pink-haired girl was trying to build up her courage. She finally spoke up to thank 𝒉. She was about to introduce herself when he cut her off, saying he would call her Xiaoli, and she could call him 𝒉. He had his reasons for stopping her. He recalled that neither the bearded man nor the demon manager had given their names. Combined with the strange lore he'd read before, 𝒉 drew a chilling conclusion. In a horror game, revealing your true name is a fool's gambit. The pink-haired girl immediately understood. She nodded with a pale face and thanked our main character. The two then quickly passed through the corridor and arrived at the back door of the inn. It opened to reveal the full view of the lobby. The blue bricks upon the ground were mottled with dark red stains, like an old execution yard. A faint, coppery smell of blood hung in the air. The front desk and simple wooden tables seemed normal, as did the 3 large wine jars nearby. What do we do now? Xiaoli asked instinctively. Obviously, their job was to wait for guests and serve them. What a dumb question. But there was no time for fear. From now on, every step was a gamble with death. At that moment, a gust of wind blew in from outside, carrying a putrid stench from the front door. Suddenly, the door burst open. A grotesque, obese ghost charged in, its body a canvas of centipede-like scars. Draped in filthy rags, its sickly blue skin and razor-sharp fangs screamed pure malice. Its eyes immediately locked onto 𝒉 and the pink-haired girl. A bizarre, guttural growl rumbled from deep within its throat, twisting its face into a hideous sneer. Xiaoli's face drained of all color. A deep, terrifying growl rumbled from the creature's throat. A living person was here? At the same time, saliva dripped from its mouth, as if it had just laid eyes on an exquisite delicacy. 𝒉 stared at this bizarre customer, recalling the boss and the accountant's warning. Do not displease the guests. He quickly stepped forward, forcing a smile. Welcome, esteemed guest, please come in. But as he spoke, the fat green monster's expression soured with disappointment. It realized these were just staff members. For a moment, it had hoped the inn offered some new, do-it-yourself fresh ingredients. As for our main character, his soul was practically screaming from this high-stakes horror game. The green fatty snorted coldly and lumbered towards a table. It slowly lowered itself onto a small chair, which groaned ominously under the mountain of flesh. The sound made Lin Yu break out in a cold sweat. Thankfully, the chair held. If it had broken, he wasn't sure he could escape the penalty for damaging inn property. The green fatty casually tossed 2 gold coins onto the table, demanding a pot of hot water and a set of cutlery. Money talks. Lin Yu immediately went to a corner of the hall where 3 charcoal stoves and various utensils were kept. Xiao Li nervously followed close behind. Everything here felt eerie. A kettle was boiling on one of the stoves. As she reached for it, Lin Yu stopped her. "Careful, it's heavy. A girl with clumsy hands like yours could get herself killed." However, the moment he lifted the kettle, it shrieked in agony. "Too hot. It's like a furnace. Kill me now." Lin Yu froze in shock, his hands trembling. The teapot slipped from his grasp and crashed to the floor with a deafening shatter. It was broken. Xiao Li stared at him, stunned, a thought flashing through her mind. "Hide it. No one will see." Lin Yu looked at her, surprised, and his fondness for the girl grew a little. Even though she was sweating bullets and this had nothing to do with her, she was still willing to worry about his safety. He reached up and rubbed his neck. "I don't think we can hide this." And right on cue, the old ghost accountant let out a dry cough and a raspy chuckle. "So clumsy. You just started and you've already destroyed the inn's teapot." He cackled. "That'll be 50 coins. Pay up." Xiao Li and Lin Yu spun around. The old accountant ghost had somehow snuck up right behind them, his body hunched over. But his expression wasn't angry. It was one of surprised glee. His eyes were filled with pure greed. He was certain this broke kid didn't have a single coin to his name. Without another word, his hand, looking like a withered chicken's claw, shot out and grabbed Lin Yu's right arm. "You can pay with this!" Xiao Li let out a terrified shriek, certain that in the next second, she would see the main character's arm get ripped off. But at that critical moment, Lin Yu roared, "Stop! I may be short on sense, but I'm not short on cash." At the same time, Lin Yu was screaming internally, "System, give me 50,000 nether coins, in physical coin form, now." The system responded instantly. Withdrawal of 50,000 nether coins confirmed. The old ghost immediately froze. He felt a wave of pure yin energy radiate from Lin Yu's body, an aura far stronger and purer than his own. It was even more potent and pristine than the innkeeper's aura. Lin Yu also felt an icy chill spread from his chest. In the next instant, a string of 1,000 shimmering coins materialized in his arms. Although it was a full 5,000 coins, it felt completely weightless. Lin Yu didn't hesitate, slamming the string of coins down in front of the old ghost. "Is this enough for you?" The ghost stared at the brand new nether coins, gulping nervously. It wasn't because of greed, it was because he was absolutely terrified to accept them. The old ghost looked at Lin Yu with a hint of dread. It was no exaggeration to say that this string of 1,000 coins was enough to buy his life. If Lin Yu offered these coins to that other guest to kill him, the green fatty would do it in a heartbeat. Heck, even the innkeeper herself might kill him for this kind of money. Seeing that the main character didn't even know how to issue the correct denomination, he boldly guessed that with such wealth and confidence, this was definitely not some rookie's first time in a horror game. Xiao Li was also completely dumbfounded. She never imagined her companion could strike such fear into the heart of the old counter-ghost. Lin Yu's face was a mask of calm. "So, even ghosts can feel fear, huh? Even a terrifying ghoul will instinctively tremble before a divine tycoon." This paltry sum of 50,000 nether coins had scared the old ghost witless. Lin Yu wondered if his remaining balance could make this entire twisted game shut down. This cheat he had was even more powerful than he'd imagined. They were so dead. Seeing the counter-ghost's over-the-top reaction, he realized something. Perhaps even vengeful spirits would kill each other for money. Lin Yu calmly picked up the string of coins and handed it to the ghost. "Go on, take it. Go have some fun with the ghost ladies. If you're short, I'll give you more." He then wondered, "You're the accountant. Why are you so scared of money?" The ghost stammered, "In all my cursed life, I've never seen so much money. You've given me so much. I'd have to dig up my own grave and I still wouldn't have enough to give you change." Lin Yu couldn't be bothered with a few small coins. He had a mission to complete. He looked at his system interface. The first consumption mission was still incomplete. Mission: accumulate 100,000 in spending. He then saw the system's rule. Compensation fees are capped at 100 times the item's value. Anything over that limit won't count towards the mission and will be refunded. So his guess was right. Compensation counted. The 9 Serenity soul-settling wine sounded incredible just from its name. It was definitely a top-tier item. He might even be able to use it to control a ghost and make it his subordinate. He realized that while money was powerful, it could eventually run out. If he wanted true safety, in this world, he had to rely on his own strength. While the rules of this instance were still clear, he had to complete these missions. With money to burn, His confidence soared. He picked up a plate and asked the dazed ghost, "Hey, uncle, how much for this plate?" Learning it cost 100 coins. He immediately smashed a dozen of them, just for the thrill of it. The act left Xiao Li and the old ghost with their jaws on the floor. Lin Yu then shoved the entire string of nether coins at the counter ghoul. "This is for the damages. Whatever's left over. Consider it my treat to make friends with all the guests here at the Netherworld station." The old ghost was completely stunned. What was this guy planning? Although the yin energy coins were weightless and cold, they felt scorching hot and heavy in his hands. He didn't care who this big shot was or what his goals were. This was a golden opportunity to get on his good side. "I wouldn't dare call myself your friend," the ghost stammered. "But if you ever need help, I am at your service." "All right, buddy. Put the money away before you lose it. I'm going to keep smashing things." But just as he spoke, a new voice cut through the air. "That's enough." It was the innkeeper. "Show some restraint. Dogs have tails, humans have consciousness. If you keep this up, I won't be able to stay in business." But this sound. It wasn't the roar of a normal vengeful spirit. The tone was oddly gentle, as if it cared nothing for worldly riches. Lin Yu sighed in disappointment. This one wasn't an opportunity to spend money like a madman. His plans thwarted. He then noticed the green ghost sitting patiently. Immediately, Lin Yu grabbed a teapot and approached him, his voice dripping with apology for the long wait. He even offered to compensate the ghost if he was dissatisfied. But the green fatty just seemed terrified, waving his hands frantically and insisting he wasn't in a hurry. This bizarre reaction stunned Lin Yu, Xiao Li, and even the old shopkeeper. It seems the world had truly changed. Money was the ultimate power. The ghost didn't need to know about Lin Yu's immense wealth. Just seeing him smash valuables without a second thought was enough to know this was not a man to be crossed. Even he couldn't afford to pay for such destruction. He was certain some powerful figure was backing this human, supplying his endless fortune. He dared not offend someone like him. "Oh, so that's how it is." A victorious smirk played on Lin Yu's lips. He declared that since the ghost had waited so long, the fault was entirely his. To make up for it, he would treat the ghost to a meal. Hearing the magic words "free food," the green fatty's face lit up brighter than a blooming flower. Lin Yu told him not to hold back. Order anything and everything from the menu. The only downside? Lin Yu lamented that the most expensive dish was barely over 100 nether coins. Still, for a beginner-level instance, this level of spending wasn't too bad. The green ghost trembled with excitement, asking if he could order one of everything on the menu. This was music to Lin Yu's ears. The gleeful old ghost owner personally scurried off to the kitchen to relay the massive order. But just then, Lin Yu's voice cut through the air, cold and dissatisfied. He had a new demand. Forget any dish under 30 coins. And for anything above 30 coins, make 2 portions of each, piping hot. Taking advantage of the situation, the old ghost's mind raced, calculating the bill with glee. Lin Yu, ever the magnanimous one, even rounded up the total. A whopping 1,000 coins. Who was the real sugar daddy here? Lin Yu leaned against the wine cabinet, lost in thought. The gap to his spending target was still immense. He'd barely managed to burn through 60,000 yuan. His face was so dark and grim that Xiao Li, watching him, couldn't help but flinch and hesitantly call out his name. That's when it hit him. Like a bolt of lightning, he spun around, grabbing her shoulders tightly. "My dear Xiao Li, it's perfect that you're here. I need you to do something for me, and I'll pay you handsomely for it." His grand plan was to turn the lovely Xiao Li into his personal marketing agent. He needed her to stand outside the inn, right next to a sign that read, "Today, the entire restaurant is free." He was literally turning her into a lucky cat to wave in customers. Before long, the inn was overflowing with all manner of ghouls and monsters. A sharp-beaked, vengeful spirit screeched about his generosity. A headless ghost roared that this was the first time it had ever feasted so lavishly, saving it the trouble of hunting for yin energy. But unlike the other ghouls who only cared about stuffing their faces, a purple-lipped ghost noticed something else. The yin energy radiating from Lin Yu was impossibly pure, refined to perfection. No ordinary person could possess such an aura. He mused that Lin Yu might be an envoy for some great demon lord, and this grand gesture was a power play to build his reputation. Xiao Li observed everything with her head down, and a realization slowly dawned on her. Lin Yu was no new player. No rookie could possibly spend money like it was water. He had to be a seasoned veteran. Lin Yu casually thanked the beauty, telling the old ghost owner to bring her a special super yang yin soup as a bonus. He then tossed a heavy string of coins onto the counter. The bill was settled. A proud voice echoed in his mind. The system announced, "Cumulative spending has exceeded 100,000. Congratulations, host. on successfully completing the first mission. Yes, finally. He had completed the first objective. Who knew spending money could be so exhausting? Suddenly, a God of Fortune item materialized before him. It was a flask of 9 Serenity soul-fixing wine. Drinking it could increase one's strength and spirit sense, enhancing the power of both a ghost controller and their phantoms. However, the effect capped out after 3 flasks. Reaching out, he took the flask. This was exactly what he needed. Only by growing stronger, relentlessly stronger, could he truly seize control of his own destiny. He had to drink it now, and officially become a ghost controller. The moment he opened it, a rich, intoxicating aroma filled the air, instantly stimulating the senses of every ghost in the room. They all recognized it as a powerful spiritual supplement, though none could identify what it was. To have such an immense and pure yin energy, they were now certain Lin Yu's background was anything but ordinary. Get ready to join his side, fellas. Lin Yu raised the flask, not to drink alone, but to share it with everyone. To us, he toasted, inviting all the vengeful spirits. 1, 2, 3. Drink! A wave of pure glacial spiritual energy washed over him. Instantly, he received a notification. Spirit Sense plus 10, Spiritual Power plus 100. Host has obtained Spirit Sense for the first time. Attribute panel unlocked. Lin Yu crossed his arms, analyzing the situation. Just a single sip of wine had directly awakened his spirit sense, effortlessly allowing him to become a ghost controller. The system's rewards were truly top tier. Just then, a new notification popped up. Mission 2 has been issued. Lin Yu's curiosity was piqued. What amazing reward would it be this time? This mission, however, was on another level of insane. The requirement? Each spending instance must now exceed 320,000 yuan. But the reward was a perfect grade ghost contract. This was a game changer. With a contract like that, he could finally obtain a power that was truly his own. He had to find a way to complete this mission, and fast. He glanced over at the vengeful spirits, now completely wasted on spirit wine, momentarily unsure of his next move. The green ghost, who had remained quiet, was observing him. He noticed that Lin Yu's aura wasn't overwhelmingly strong, yet his generosity was boundless, even sharing a spiritual treasure with strangers. He concluded this man was a hidden master. He remembered his own past life, how an obsession to repay a debt of gratitude had turned him into a ghost. He was not one to be ungrateful. Steeling his resolve, he stood up to make a request. He asked for permission to call him Brother Lin. Then, from his robes, he pulled out a strange, ancient mirror. He confessed that receiving a free meal had made him feel ashamed. So he wanted to offer this mysterious yin energy tool to Lin Yu as a token of his gratitude. Stepping forward, he presented the mirror with both hands. He explained that he'd possessed it for many years without ever figuring out how to use it. All he knew was that it could reveal the locations of other ghost creatures and nearby hotspots of yin energy. Lin Yu let out a curious, "Oh?" It truly was bizarre. The surface reflected absolutely nothing. But then, the system chimed in. Yin energy tool detected. Ghost Dragon soul-locking mirror. Now binding to host. The green ghost scratched his head in embarrassment, admitting his own aptitude was too low to qualify him to use it. He just thought it might be useful to the benefactor who treated him to a meal, and he was overjoyed that Lin Yu accepted it. His intuition was correct. This mirror was a priceless treasure, and it would be incredibly useful to him. Xiao Li and the green ghost stared with faces of utter disbelief. Not only did Lin Yu seem to know what the mirror was, he effortlessly made it vanish into a 4-dimensional storage space. The entire crowd of ghosts was left completely speechless. This shocking display proved it. The agent's eyes widened in awe, picturing Lin Yu clawing his way up from the lowest depths. To these ghosts, he wasn't just powerful, he was a legend to be worshipped. Eager to please the main character, the bald ghost stood up, offering what seemed to be a precious artifact. Lin Yu, wasting no time, stepped forward boldly, asking what treasure he had to offer. He had only intended to use them to complete his first mission, but somehow, he'd become their idol. He accepted the tribute from the bald ghost. A cursed skull necklace. Wearing it would shield him from the influence of high-level yin energy. It also had a storage function, allowing him to unleash that same energy on command. A counterattack function. Then again, Lin Yu probably wouldn't even need it. The ghost said it looked great as a simple accessory anyway. Once bound to its new master, Lin Yu knew it wasn't as legendary as his mirror. But at this early stage, a treasure with both defense and offense was exactly what he needed. Instantly, the other ghosts, not wanting to be outdone, collectively offered him a torrent of their original yin energy. He absorbed it all into the necklace, and just like that, he could feel an immense surge of power. He felt like the Monkey King himself, donning a skull necklace. Enjoying this unique gift, he thanked them graciously, much to the delight of the entire ghostly congregation. Xiao Li watched this surreal display of flattery, more unbelievable than a man giving birth, and began to question his entire existence. Is this really supposed to be a horror game? This was just all kinds of wrong. As closing time arrived, the old cashier was grinning ear to ear. It was a bountiful harvest. Thanks to Lin Yu, the old ghost had earned 5 times his usual haul. Lin Yu remained silent, his gaze fixed on the world outside. It was no wonder the other ghosts had all vanished before nightfall. If they were caught in the coming yin energy fluctuation, it was doubtful any of them would survive the night. The proprietress's voice suddenly cut through his thoughts, announcing that the long workday was finally over. She summoned everyone to the main hall for a late dinner. This meant he and Xiao Li would have to face the other ghosts in the inn, and unlike the ones here, they probably couldn't be bribed with money. Suddenly, blood-red text materialized in the air. Xiao Li screamed in terror. Only 4 players remained. After just 1 day in this instant's dungeon. 1 day. No, it hadn't even been a full day. And 2 people were already dead. This was the true face of the horror game. The survival rate was terrifyingly low. He quietly sat down, composing himself. For now, his underworld currency kept him safe. But he knew if he'd been a second slower with that bribe, he would have lost an arm. He thought back to those friendly ghosts from earlier. If he hadn't treated them to a lavish feast, he'd be nothing more than scattered pieces, rotting in their stomachs right now. Glancing down at the shimmering skull necklace, Lin Yu felt a wave of relief. At least he had a few items to protect himself. The old ghost's voice pulled him from his thoughts. We'll be dining here shortly. It's a tradition at the Yellow Springs Inn. Old Ghost Li, why are you treating a mere newcomer with such respect? Just then, 2 figures strode through the door. The portly ghost was Zhang Liang, and behind her was the female manager from that morning. Lin Yu and Xiao Li flinched at her appearance. What's more, the skinny blonde player was nowhere in sight. The manager approached, surprised to see the 2 of them completely unharmed. Her once youthful, rosy face was now marred by a fresh scar. Using his spiritual sense, Lin Yu detected a deep-seated resentment burning within her, but her current power level wasn't nearly enough to eliminate a fellow player. Watching old Li and Zhang bicker like stray dogs, he began to understand the inn's internal politics. This place was far from harmonious. Old Li sneered that Zhang was all brawn and no brain, living only to torment her underlings. He, on the other hand, was trying to build up some good karma for the future. Struck speechless, Zhang Liang redirected her fury, accusing Lin Yu of being lazy and not clearing the tables. She clearly had a death wish. As she prepared to strike him, the female manager smirked, and Xiao Li panicked, but Lin Yu simply raised his teacup, completely unbothered. Before she could land a blow, his necklace flared to life. A burst of yin energy sent her staggering backward, just as he'd predicted. She only knew how to bully weaker players. Trying to challenge a real vengeful spirit with that pathetic strength, she'd get her face caved in. Lin Yu let out a cold, challenging laugh. The woman's eyes widened, finally noticing the mid-grade yin artifact on him. She knew she was no match for that. Defeated, she slumped into a chair in silence. From that moment, she marked the main character as a thorn in her side. If she ever got the chance, she would kill him without hesitation. His safety today was a fluke, all because those other ghosts didn't realize his true, fledgling power level. If he didn't deal with this fat hag Zhang Liang quickly, he knew that sooner or later, the old cashier or even the mysterious proprietress would discover he was only a bluffing human. And then, he'd be a dead man. He frowned, pondering his options. How was he supposed to get rid of this Cao? From the Zhang family? Just then, the doors swung open again. The head chef entered. His steps were slow and deliberate, yet they silenced both the cashier and Zhang instantly. Neither of them dared to move a muscle. Lin Yu confirmed it. This was the head chef, and his spiritual sense screamed a warning. This man's presence was far stronger than that hag Zhang. The chef bellowed at Sideburns to bring the food to the table. Right away, Sideburns replied respectfully, one of his arms clearly missing. With a flourish, the chef lifted the lid. Everyone, dig in, he announced. But inside the pot was a vile, steaming purple sludge, so disgusting that even a pig would turn its nose up at it. Xiao Li's soul practically left his body. My sanity. What is happening? The female manager stammered, speechless. She wanted to protest, but the chef's next words made her tremble in fear. In a furious rage, he demanded they eat every last drop. But Lin Yu simply offered his seat to the injured Sideburns, causing the chef to think he was being mocked. But then, a strange aroma filled the air. The chef sniffed, his eyes widening. It was the scent of a legendary wine. "I wouldn't dare mock you," Lin Yu said smoothly. He deftly uncorked a flask of 9 nether soul-fixing wine. "A chef of your caliber, with such a supreme palate. And yet you drink that swill? It's truly unworthy of your talent." Lin Yu poured a full cup and offered it to him. "Please, try some of mine. If it's not to your liking, I won't be offended." The chef was immediately captivated. Anyone else who had angered him like this would have been slapped into oblivion. But he had to admit, the kid had a point. That other wine tasted like sewer water. It was only right to give this a try. He took a single sip, and the world dissolved around him. He felt as if he were soaking in a divine hot spring, surrounded by celestial beauties. He was basking in the purest yin energy he had ever known. A force so pure, it felt like it could cleanse his very soul, leveling up a whole realm. This wine is truly divine. The old ghost slammed his bowl down with satisfaction. A triumphant smirk crossed Lin Yu's face. The 9 netherworld wine was the perfect bait for this hulking dark ghost. He immediately tempted the old ghost to drink another bowl. Without a second's hesitation, the ghost chugged down every last drop. With an expression of pure ecstasy, as if he'd ascended to the heavens, Lam Vu watched the old ghost's every move. It seemed this soul-settling wine was even more potent than he imagined. "System, bring me another bottle." Instantly, a new flask of priceless wine appeared. The old ghost was stunned that Lam Vu possessed so much of this legendary liquor, and he accepted it with pure joy. He even poured the drink for Lam Vu himself, his attitude completely softened. He offered a heartfelt thank you, his tone now warm and familiar. Of course, Old Man Thungan and that hag Truong could only watch this bizarre turn of events. Their faces were frozen in utter confusion, like geese seeing a ghost. She couldn't accept it. He was just a mere human. He couldn't possibly be treated the same as them. She was determined to see him die here tonight. Lam Vu began shuffling a deck of cards and let out a deep sigh. "What a complete waste," he murmured. This immediately caught the old chef's attention. For him, the wine was more than enough. "A waste? What do you mean by that?" Placing the bottle down gently, Lam Vu explained, "If you only drink the wine, you'll never experience the true essence of this nectar. For example, it would be absolutely divine with some side dishes." A spark of realization lit up the old ghost's eyes. He was the head chef of this hotel after all. "Is that all? I can handle that," he declared, and with a flourish, whipped out a 2-meter-long cleaver, ready to prepare some snacks. Shaking his head, Lam Vu stopped him. He acknowledged the chef's legendary skills, but pointed out that the current ingredients were nothing but scraps. He insisted the chef wouldn't be able to showcase his true culinary genius with such poor materials. As he said this, Lam Vu shot a pointed glare toward Auntie Trong. The message was crystal clear. "Old man," he said, "how can the spectral energy of a human compare to that of a ghost? A dish made from ghost flesh. Flesh would surely be far more exquisite." The chef repeated his words, his voice a low whisper. "Made from ghost flesh. Made from ghost flesh." A moment later, he shot up like a spring. Of course, a dish made from a ghost would be 10,000 times more delicious. He turned and slapped Lam Vu's shoulder enthusiastically. "I wish I had met you sooner," he boomed. The chef's hungry gaze swept over Auntie Trong and Old Man Thungan, who both shuddered in fear. She stumbled backward a few steps. "Chef, don't be reckless," she stammered. "I have no quarrel with you." She reminded him that they all worked for the Yellow Springs Hotel. He couldn't just break the rules. Lam Vu smirked. The damned rules. It seemed that for the original inhabitants of this horror game, killing humans or ghosts always had to follow a specific set of rules. Old Man Thungan quickly chimed in, echoing her words. He claimed he had no beef with the chef and that rules were rules, but the chef wasn't buying it. "No beef? I saw you with my own 2 eyes. You were about to attack Lam Vu without any reason. You overstepped your authority with an employee under my management." He pointed a finger straight at her face and declared, "You are the one who broke the rules of the Yellow Springs Hotel." Hearing her dark secret exposed, Auntie Trong seethed with fury. "You're using your position to settle a personal grudge." She raised her broom to strike, but the chef moved faster. A blade flew through the air, piercing her straight through the chest. The force of the impact slammed her against the far wall. Her legs went cold. Pinned like an insect, the dying ghost sputtered, "How dare you? The mistress put you in charge. Yet you dare to attack me?" The chef, however, was unfazed. He slowly approached and began to lecture the dying hag. Rule number 1. During dinner service, no one is to lay a hand on the staff. That is the law of the Yellow Springs Hotel. A law which you broke. Furthermore, Lam Vu is a diligent and attentive worker, an outstanding and righteous employee. Yet you tried to murder him. For that, you are guilty of a second crime." With those final words, he yanked the massive knife from her chest. Auntie Trung could only let out a few gurgles before collapsing to the floor, her unlife finally over. Her corpse lay crumpled on the ground. The chef walked over and casually hoisted her body onto his shoulder. Lam Vu watched, slightly surprised. Who would have thought this chef would kill her without a second of hesitation? The chef headed for the door. "I'm going to prepare these special ingredients," he announced. "Keep an eye on the wine for me." Lam Vu simply nodded in understanding. He realized this ghost chef was far stronger than he had initially thought. It looked like he wouldn't have to worry about an ambush from Auntie Trung tonight. His gaze then shifted to Old Man Thungan. He knew the old ghost had been using Trung to probe his strength. Their eyes met, and the old ghost flinched, utterly terrified. Lam Vu casually pulled out another jug of wine. "Today, I must thank you for your support," he said, implying he would pour the old man a drink. He had to use this chance to kill the chicken to scare the monkey, but his words terrified Thungan so much, he almost wet himself. In his eyes, this young man wasn't just wealthy. He was a master manipulator, a schemer beyond compare. With just a few simple words, he had orchestrated the death of Auntie Trung. The old ghost knew for sure, if he tried to probe Lam Vu now, it would be suicide. What if he told the chef he was still hungry? Cold sweat dripped down the old ghost's back. If he drank that wine, he'd be siding with Lam Vu, and when the chef returned, he'd be in deep trouble. But if he refused the drink, it would be a grave insult. That would also lead to trouble. He was trapped between a rock and a hard place. His only option was to offer a tribute. He remembered that in the morning, ghosts had offered gifts in exchange for wine. And he knew that while this kid was rich, he never refused a gift. The old ghost nervously fumbled inside his robes for a treasure. He thought, you can never have too many treasures. Besides, he had no use for this item in the Yellow Springs Hotel anyway. A moment later, he pulled out a green wooden box and offered it with 2 trembling hands. "I just happened to find this little trinket," he said humbly. Lam Vu had successfully intimidated him into submission. The item was called Yin Sinking Wood, the finest material for crafting spectral artifacts. It was a supreme-grade item, aged over 1,000 years. Its value was no less than that of a top-tier spiritual tool. The system's notification confirmed its authenticity. It was the real deal. Lam Vu took it in his hand. Finally, a way to complete his spend money mission. He casually tossed the wood in the air and asked, "So, how much are you selling it for?" But the old ghost was offering it to save his own skin, not to make a sale. "Please, just take it," he pleaded. However, Lam Vu flatly refused. He leaned in close, his voice low. "I am a man of principle. I never take anything from anyone for free." His words sent a chill down Old Man Thunan's spine. He realized this must be Lam Vu's personal code for survival in this world. Here, survival and killing both had to follow a set of rules. But this was a deeply personal matter for every being. One could guess, but to ask directly was a grave offense. The old ghost, clenching his fists, respectfully bowed. Then, "Please, you set the price." "Okay then." Lam Vu smirked. "I'll give you 3 strings of coins for it." With a flick of his wrist, he tossed 3 heavy strings of gold coins around the old ghost's neck. The weight of the money was immense. This wasn't a gift. This was a life-changing fortune. Tears of joy streamed down the old ghost's face. With these 3 strings of coins, his contract with the hotel mistress could be shortened by 10 years. The old ghost prostrated himself on the floor, kowtowing repeatedly, his face a mask of sincere and overwhelming gratitude for our main character. The goggle-eyed ghost nearby kowtowed relentlessly, implicating Xiao Li, who was now even more impressed with his brother Lin. The bearded man simply watched with a hardened expression, deep in thought. He was just a newcomer, yet he could make this vengeful spirit kneel and beg for mercy. The man's eyes widened in speculation. Could he be a legendary ghost tamer from one of the great families? The system announced that he had successfully completed the second mission, Spend Money Like Water. The reward, a ghost control contract, had been issued. With this contract, he could successfully bind any ghost, regardless of the difference in their power levels. At the same time, the contract made it impossible for the ghost to ever betray or turn on him. It guaranteed absolute loyalty and obedience for life. This confirmed what he had suspected all along. With this contract, he could command ghosts to fight for him. It was no simple item. Its effect was beyond amazing. He was certain that no ordinary contract could ever achieve this. He glanced down at the cashier ghost, who was still clinging to his leg desperately. He decided such a precious item couldn't be wasted on a small fry like this. Kicking the ghost away, he turned his gaze toward the door. Just then, the chef had finished preparing the side dishes. Carrying a pot of ghost meat soup, he strode happily toward our main character and placed the food on the table. It looked entirely different. This was the chef's first time cooking such an ingredient, so he had no idea how it would taste. "You should try it first," he said, handing a piece over. Lin Yu was shocked. This chef's skill was on another level. It was hard to tell what ingredient he had even used. The dish was overflowing with yin energy, a powerful tonic for both ghosts and ghost tamers alike. He immediately put it in his mouth and ate it. The system chimed in. Spiritual power +1. Ghost tamer, level 1. Lin Yu's eyes lit up like stars. Seeing the power of the soul essence he had just consumed, he immediately gave the chef a thumbs up, showering him with praise. "Your cooking is legendary, nutritious and hygienic. 10 out of 10. Report to my place immediately." The chef was ecstatic, praising our main character's refined taste. The two then raised their glasses in a toast, like true men. While the old man drank wine, he relentlessly devoured the food. His spiritual power skyrocketed with every bite. This guy was definitely seizing the opportunity to eat everything in sight, not leaving a single scrap behind. As time passed quietly, Lin Yu had shoveled every last bit of food on the table into his stomach. Our main character was now so full he could barely breathe. He checked his spiritual power. It had reached 197 after just one meal. Looking down at the completely wasted chef, Lin Yu couldn't help but smirk. Even though the chef was the strongest entity in this instance, he still fell before the power of the 9 netherworld wine. The voice of Mistress Ju echoed, announcing that dinner time was over. She ordered the cashier to lead them to their rooms to rest. At that moment, the chef jolted awake, looking disappointed that the party was over so soon. He waved goodbye and said he'd see him again tomorrow. Lin Yu was sure the chef wasn't the proprietress's loyal dog. Just as he was about to help clean up, he received a message from Xiaoli's group, a blood pact from the proprietress. She wanted to see him on the 3rd floor. The others couldn't hear it, confirming that she was only communicating with him. He quietly went upstairs. In this horror game, the only way to protect your life is to pave the way with money. He had definitely caught her attention. He was certain she was the final boss of this instance, and now she wanted to see him. Lin Yu didn't know if this was a blessing or a curse. He stood before the room, which must be hers. The door suddenly swung open. Before him was the proprietress of the Netherworld Inn, looking incredibly beautiful behind a thin, obscuring veil. Lin Yu stood and observed her. She was the master of the Netherworld Inn. Taking a deep breath, he remembered the rule against killing. She couldn't kill him instantly. For now, he could only play it by ear. Clasping his hands in a formal greeting, he asked why she wanted to see him, but she acted shyly and said, "My servants were undisciplined, making you do the work of a waiter. I hope you won't blame them." This was insane. She was actually apologizing to him. Waving his hand, he said he was fine. It was a life experience. He thought to himself that this proprietress seemed stronger than the chef, but her personality was simpler. He absolutely couldn't let her know his true identity. The proprietress then glanced at him. "You ate up my entire restaurant's stock." Despite him saying he had compensated for the damage, she considered a few broken bowls a trivial matter. She then mentioned that manager Zhang was her employee of the year. Lin Yu, as if on purpose, didn't understand her meaning, putting on an innocent act. He said he was just an outsider and couldn't stop it. This made the proprietress so angry she snapped the handle of her fan. If he wanted to argue, she would happily engage in a war of words with Lin Yu. Even if he had powerful backing, she didn't care what his purpose was at the Netherworld Inn. Inciting her people to civil war and causing the death of her staff were absolute taboos. She was prepared for a final battle with Lin Yu. Our main character crossed his arms and asked what she meant. He was handsome, but not easy. Just when he thought it would be a life or death battle, she started listing off all her grievances. Zhang Liang's contribution to the inn was immense. Without him, it would be difficult for her inn to grow. To sum it all up, she wanted him to compensate her for the loss of Zhang's soul. Lin Yu almost fainted. So it was about money after all. He boldly asked the proprietress how much she wanted. She made a decision. 50 coins. Lin Yu sighed in exasperation. After all that, it was only 50 coins. It turned out a vengeful spirit was only worth about 500 teapots. He mentally called on the Divine Tycoon system and requested to use the instant cashback card. Immediately after, a shower of coins rained down on the proprietress, making her see nothing but money. "Here's 100 coins, he said, then demanded that she let the chef work for him. "Sugar baby, please let me take care of you." The proprietress was stunned for 2 seconds upon hearing his offer. A smile bloomed on her face when she realized he wanted to buy the chef with money. Lin Yu knew what she was thinking. In the proprietress's eyes, these vengeful spirits were just tools to make money. It also seemed that the chef wasn't very happy here either. He thought back. That chef was very strong. but his personality was simple and generous. With the perfect ghost control contract he could form a pact with him, ignoring the level difference. What he was doing was the best choice for both him and the proprietress. As for the proprietress, she couldn't believe he had his eyes on that big oaf. Indeed, the chef's strength was immense, but to her, he was just a cook. If she could sell him, she definitely would. But she insisted on playing dirty, claiming the chef had been with her for ages. She argued the inn couldn't possibly survive without him. The final deal? He had to cough up more money to take the chef away. Truly, the queen of scams. Why not just say so from the start? Lin Yu scoffed and immediately commanded. The system unleashed another money storm. 1,000,000 yuan rained down, blasting the woman right in the face. When our main character asked if 100 yuan was enough, the landlady immediately gave a frantic nod. Who would be foolish enough to turn down a deal this sweet? With that, she pulled a slip of paper from the valley between her assets and tossed it toward Lin Yu. This was her contract with the chef. In her heart, the chef's real value was a mere 150 coins, but the contract stated his price was 10,000 nether coins. That's the equivalent of 10 million tongjing. Lin Yu sighed, completely baffled. With the most expensive dish here costing less than 100 wen, the chef's freedom was clearly just empty words on paper. Looking up smugly, Lin Yu vowed he'd never write something so lenient. He'd just state that the contract has permanent value. Now that's a special kind of evil, my friend. The proprietress explained that he only needed to destroy the contract, and the chef would be free. She couldn't guarantee, however, that the chef would sign a new one. But this was all part of Lin Yu's grand plan. He told her not to worry about it. Before leaving, he paused to ask if he wanted to make a contract with her and buy the entire inn. What would the total damages be? Naturally, the proprietress froze, not giving an immediate answer. A few seconds later, she slowly turned back, offering an apology for disappointing him. She claimed that both she and the inn were priceless possessions that couldn't be bought. Clasping his hands in respect, Lin Yu didn't press the issue. He turned to leave immediately. It seems that in a horror game, money can't buy everything. Little did he know, this money-hungry boss was just putting on a show. If only he had insisted on a price, she would have caved instantly. Watching his retreating figure, she felt a premonition that fate would surely bring them together again. Lin Yu went straight to the break room. The moment he walked in, the bearded man and the female chief jumped out of their skins. They knew they couldn't let their guard down. His terrifying presence was far more dreadful than any ghost. Even though our main character tried to act like a kind and virtuous citizen, they couldn't ignore the fact that he could casually chat with the chef and even negotiate with the dungeon's final boss. The bearded man couldn't hold back his thoughts any longer. According to his mission, Lin Yu was clearly a newcomer. He refused to believe that this man wasn't from some hidden, powerful clan in this world. Sitting down quietly, Lin Yu told them he was simply lucky enough to have a fateful encounter and receive a legacy. The bearded man lowered his head, muttering that he couldn't believe people like him actually existed. He had only heard about them on the forums. Lin Yu, not quite understanding, asked what he meant. He questioned if there was a forum where players of this game could interact. The bearded man immediately nodded in confirmation, just as he was about to explain. He turned and asked if they had heard of Investigation Center No. 9, recently established by their country. Xiao Li confirmed she'd seen some news, and asked if it was really created because of this horror game. That was exactly right. The bearded man then pulled out a work ID card. He told them to call the center after they get out. Someone would definitely answer. The center relies on players to provide critical information. However, everything has a downside. Your identity would be registered by the government. Plus, you'd have to report everything you see and hear. You'd live and work just like a contract employee. He himself was one. He added that many choose to become a ghost tamer. Officially, after forming a contract with a ghost, you get the chance to become a full-time employee. He assured them that they would be grouped with other members in the future. This would drastically increase their survival rate in the game. The female chiefs in Xiao Li's eyes widened with interest. Lin Yu handed back the card, wondering if they had to keep playing this damned game. Some high-level experts had paid a heavy price just to enter. He explained that although dungeon instances are dangerous, they also offer incredible opportunities. Investigation Center No. 9 and the forums are ways to connect with other players. This is an anonymous website managed by a high-ranking ghost tamer. All information is kept confidential. After leaving an instance and returning to reality, others won't remember your appearance. It's a safe zone set up by the government for those who wish to remain anonymous. Lin Yu nodded, confirming he understood. Since no one else had questions, the group decided to sleep. The bearded man wished them all a good night. Lin Yu then summoned his system. A rebate card had activated, giving him 5 times the cash back on his spending. The next mission was, the more you spend, the merrier. The objective was to make 3 purchases exceeding 100,000 yuan each. The spending had to be more than 5 times the item's insured value, and he couldn't actively raise the prices. The rewards were a 10 times rebate card, 5 yin spirit essences, 10 soul-catching talismans, and 10 spirit annihilation talismans. The rooster crowed, signaling dawn. Lin Yu opened his eyes. Daytime in the ghost town had begun. Stretching, Lin Yu savored the benefits of being a ghost tamer. Though he hadn't slept, a wink. He felt no fatigue. Doing a few exercises, Lin Yu recalled his actions from the previous day. In other words, the cashier was scared to death, and the master chef was no longer paying him any mind. It confirmed that nothing unexpected had happened last night. Just then, the other 3 woke up. They were still alive, though their mental states were fragile. A knock at the door made all 3 of them flinch. Lin Yu casually opened it, telling them not to worry. It was probably the cashier coming to assign the day's work. Sure enough, there stood the old ghost, bowing and scraping as he respectfully greeted the official. After learning the master chef's location, Lin Yu headed straight there, ignoring whatever the old ghost was trying to say. The ghost assumed he was some grand figure, who wouldn't follow the inn's rules. Swallowing his words, he urged Xiaoli's group to get to work. The bearded man stood frozen, watching Lin Yu's retreating back. He thought, as expected of an expert from the outside world. Meanwhile, Lin Yu had reached the kitchen to find the master chef. He was cooking a pot of sickly green soup and even offered him a taste. Good God, you call that food? It looks more like pesticide. Lin Yu immediately refused. He stated he was here on business. The master chef looked up, asking what he wanted. He then watched as Lin Yu laid his cards on the table, asking about his contract at the inn. Was I willing? Huh. Zhujiang lowered his head, a deep sigh escaping his lips. He knew he couldn't hide the truth. Once, he was a powerhouse deep within the ghost world, a figure of considerable renown, until he was ensnared in a vicious conspiracy. After countless struggles, his very soul stood on the brink of dissipating into nothingness. If not for the proprietress of this Yellow Springs Inn, he would be long gone. His wounds healed, but the proprietress was no simple savior. He was bound to her by a soul contract. Now, he could only accept his fate here, forever trapped. The vast world, the taste of legendary wine, all were beyond his reach. That is, until Lin Yu spoke. Looking at the old ghost, he spoke with absolute seriousness. I'm offering you a chance to journey with me between both worlds. Zhujiang continued to stir his soup, his mind racing. The proprietress would never let him go. But his hand froze mid-stir. His eyes widened as he recognized the faint glow of a contract held high in Lin Yu's hand. It was his own soul-bound contract. Zhujiang was stunned. How? How do you have that? Of course, our main character is ridiculously wealthy. A mere contract like this? He could acquire it with a snap of his fingers. And just like that, he tore the old contract to shreds. I can't promise you everything, Lin Yu stated calmly, but I can guarantee you'll drink the finest wine for the rest of your existence. Drink his fill for all eternity. For Zhujiang, that was more than enough. You spent so much for my sake. From this day on, they would be sworn brothers. He would walk through fire and water for him. Nothing else mattered. Holding up a new contract, the old ghost roared with joyous laughter. Fine wine and rare delicacies mean nothing. The chance to travel the worlds with you is everything. With a decisive strike, he stamped the contract with his hand. And just like that, Lin Yu had achieved his goal. A system notification popped up. Contract with the ghost, Zhujiang, successfully established. View status panel. Opening the stats panel, Lin Yu's jaw dropped. Zhujiang's attributes were 100 times stronger than his own. This was an insane power-up. He thought back to the Yellow Springs Inn. It was a decrepit, bizarre place, but its danger level was terrifyingly high. If not for the instance's rules and his own god-tier system, all 6 players in his party would have been annihilated long ago. Looking back, Lin Yu felt a sense of fortune. This hidden dragon instance had yielded immense rewards. Just then, Zhujiang finished his cauldron of pesticide and bowed respectfully. Master, he declared, from now on, this old one will follow you for life. Lin Yu smiled, telling him there was no need for such formalities. In fact, he knew he'd be relying on Zhujiang's power a great deal. To celebrate their success, he generously invited the old ghost for a drink. As dusk settled, The three of them sat in the courtyard, a comfortable silence between them. After taming Zhujiang, the Yellow Springs Inn instance was no longer a threat. Xiao Li and 𝒂𝒐𝒕 were still alive, but the female chieftain had tragically bumped into a guest while cleaning and was instantly slain. Lin Yu pondered. This was a horror game, after all, a world where ghosts ran rampant. Even with his cheat-like system and immense wealth, a ghost contract didn't make him invincible. And according to what 𝒂𝒐𝒕 had said, the game activates once every half-month. He absolutely had to get stronger. His thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. It was Xiao Li. He turned to see her running toward him, her eyes sparkling as she called out to him intimately. "Brother Lin." She wanted to thank him. For the past 2 days, without Lin Yu's protection, she was certain she wouldn't have survived the first day. To Lin Yu, it was nothing praiseworthy. Helping others was simply another way of helping himself. Xiao Li handed him a slip of paper. "Please, take this." Seeing Lin Yu's confusion, she quickly explained. In the real world, she was from Jiangcheng City, and her family held some influence there. She meant that if he ever needed help in reality, he could call her using the number on that paper. Lin Yu opened his mouth to say something, but a system notification cut him off. "Congratulations, player. You have completed the Yellow Springs Inn instance." The mission was over. A violent tremor stopped him from replying to Xiao Li's words. The next thing he knew, he was standing in his own home. He sighed. What a heavy burden this was. Without a second thought, Lin Yu dropped the business card onto a nearby table and glanced at his watch. 2 full days in the horror game had passed in just a single second in reality. He immediately summoned Zhujiang. The old ghost materialized from another dimension, a massive wine jug still clutched in his arms. He asked what his master required. Though he asked, he couldn't resist taking a few refreshing sips of wine first. Lin Yu just wanted to run a test. He could feel the connection of the contract with Zhujiang was perfectly stable. The collar of resentment and his other items were all here. So it was true, he thought. Ghost tamers could bring their ghosts and their supernatural tools back to the real world. He walked quietly to the balcony. It seemed the number of strange incidents in recent years was growing, and more than half of them were likely caused by ghost tamers, with malicious intent. He feared the world he knew was no longer a safe place. He recalled 𝒂𝒐𝒕's membership card and his warning. Every 2 weeks, they would be dragged back into the game. The time he had to prepare was short. Lin Yu let out a sigh. He was harboring too many secrets. Now was not the time to contact the government. Compared to Investigation Center Number 9, the information network on the forums was far more suitable for him. He immediately got to work, infiltrating the website, successfully masking his IP address. Within moments, he was logged in. The Horror Game Exchange forum interface appeared before him. Lin Yu's eyes darted across every line on the forum's announcement board. He glanced at the official notice from the Daxia Investigation Center Number 9. Strictly forbidden to use illicit means for personal gain. Strictly forbidden to use spiritual means to harm others. Strictly forbidden to publicly expose the existence of the game or ghosts and cause public panic. Violators will bear the full consequences. Lin Yu leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. An organization like this could indeed keep even the most powerful and ambitious ghost tamers in check. But for him, who had just stepped into this new world, the most important thing was still protecting his own life. He decided he should check out the guide provided for new players. Without hesitation, Lin Yu clicked to download the file. The document's contents revealed that all game instances exist in a place called the Ghost World. The Ghost World was a vast territory, home to countless ghosts, all of whom could only kill people according to a set of rules. Ghosts were divided into 7 power levels based on their strength, while ghost tamers were classified into 9 ranks. Lin Yu frowned, deep in thought. His perfect-grade ghost taming contract could likely ignore rank differences. His first contract, with Zhujiang, was with a fierce ghost rank entity. He suddenly recalled the forum, mentioning that 100,000 players had already entered the horror game. Aside from the first group, which was presumed to be completely wiped out, every subsequent group had survivors. Among them, a lucky few had encountered the 9 nether soul-fixing jade and became ghost tamers. He smirked. He had one of those too. I've already used 2 potions, but I can still take 1 more. Subduing the bamboo general cost me 3 flasks, but my inventory is still looking healthy. Just as I suspected, the forum doubles as a marketplace for items. It's only natural. When faced with death, players will do anything to get an edge, and the forum is the perfect supply hub. Suddenly, a notification tone chimed. A new announcement from the official forum. The government was hosting its 4th online trading conference. Curious, Lin Yu tapped to view the details. Following the 5th internal test phase, the forum would host its 4th live trading event right here in Jiang City. The exact time and location would be revealed only after registering via private message. The entire event would operate under a strict principle of anonymity. Anonymity would be maintained at all times. Everyone was encouraged to sign up. Lin Yu's eyes scanned every line of the official notice. So, it's being held right here in Jiang City? He wondered if the online forum wasn't enough. Then he spotted a comment from a user named Mad Blade, explaining the need for a physical marketplace. It shed some light on the whole affair. Mad Blade explained that while the forum's anonymous meets are complex, they are incredibly secure. The provided masks can block spiritual probes, and the name tags are infused with yin energy to prevent forgery. Another user, with the moniker Righteous Owl, added that one of the forum's 3 founders is the ghost tamer known as 𝑏𝒉𝒐𝒓𝒅. Rumor has it, he's a rather powerful evil spirit. Lin Yu remained silent, inwardly gauging the power levels. 𝑏𝒉𝒐𝒓𝒅's yin energy was easily on par with the bamboo general. He glanced at the 2 gatekeepers. They looked unimpressive. Definitely not 𝑏𝒉𝒐𝒓𝒅's elite guards. After confirming his registration was valid, a spectral attendant informed Lin Yu that if he wished to sell any items, he had to visit the appraisal station first. Lin Yu's gaze shifted to the appraisal team. He was genuinely impressed. That machine was incredibly advanced. So, what are the grades for materials and ghost tools? My lord asked. The burly man known as Mad Blade clapped him on the shoulder, enthusiastically pointing to a nearby appraisal machine. It was a device from the Central Investigation Bureau No. 9. It analyzes the spirit energy enveloping an item and classifies it into 3 grades: high, mid, and low, each with 3 sub-tiers. Of course, the machine can't appraise certain consumables or unique, high-grade artifacts. Lin Yu was starting to get the picture. He quickly thanked his newfound brother. It seemed the technology wielded by these organizations was on par with, or even surpassed, the power of players. They were more formidable than he had ever imagined. He was still a long way from the top. Clenching his fist, his resolve hardened. He hoped that at this auction, he could trade his items for even greater power. The line moved quickly, the scanner operating seamlessly. An appraiser called out the result: low grade, rank 1 spectral tool, with detection abilities. He noted that the bald guy who owned it was extremely lucky to find such a thing. Mad Blade couldn't help but curse under his breath. Even a low-grade detection tool like that was worth a fortune, hundreds of thousands of yuan. Incredible. Lin Yu subconsciously touched his own item. If a simple low-grade detection tool fetched that price, then his own medium-grade yin artifact, the Necklace of Grudge, a versatile tool for both offense and defense, would be considered a priceless treasure on the market. The appraisals continued at a lively pace. Next up was an unlucky guy holding a piece of black yin ore, but its yin energy had degraded too severely. The appraiser declared it completely worthless. Lin Yu quietly used his system to inspect the ore, confirming the expert's judgment was sharp. It was exactly as his own system had warned. Soon, it was Mad Blade's and Lin Yu's turn. Being respectful, our main character let the older man go first. He gestured for Mad Blade to step forward. Lin Yu knew that a machine-based appraisal couldn't possibly identify every rare and unusual item. This was his chance to snag a hidden gem. Mad Blade stepped up and tossed a crumpled piece of silk onto the table. As the machine began its scan, he squeezed his eyes shut, praying for a medium-grade result. But the higher the hope, the greater the fall. The appraiser delivered the bad news. This silk parchment is neither a spectral tool, nor is it a spectral material. The strange thing is, it contains an incredibly powerful reserve of yin energy, but none of the 3 appraisers could identify it. The final verdict: quality unverifiable. They told Mad Blade he'd have to set his own price. Utterly dejected, Mad Blade grabbed his item to leave. Lin Yu clapped his brother on the shoulder, offering a few words of comfort. His eyes fell upon the crumpled parchment in Mad Blade's hand, and instantly, his system's appraisal window popped up. It was a high-grade artifact, but his thoughts were cut short by the appraiser calling his name. As he slowly stepped forward, he mentally instructed his system to produce a single underworld coin. Best to start small, just 1 coin to test the waters. The machine beeped. A standard yin energy material, the appraiser said. If you have 100 of these, the combined yin energy would probably reach a low-grade rating. He was about to hand it back when his colleague stopped him. Wait. This coin. It's not that simple. The yin energy. It's exceptionally pure. Not a single impurity within it. The 2 men leaned in closer, reading the inscription aloud. Heaven and Earth Bank. This is the official currency, used by the spectral world itself. Not only that, The minting quality of this coin is far superior to any he'd seen in a dungeon before. He suddenly recalled a hidden rule of the ghost world. Humans possessing normal yin materials is one thing, but attempting to trade directly with spectral entities is a grave offense in their realm. 8 out of 10 who try are destroyed. But if a human can acquire officially recognized underworld coins, it's like having the protection of the Heaven and Earth Bank itself. You can trade safely with any spirit. His gaze fell on Lin Yu, his mind racing. Specters would never let their currency fall into human hands easily. He was certain this young man was an absolute master. But what was his name? Fengdu Great Emperor? He'd never heard of him. He must be a newly emerged talent, a mysterious solo player from the infamous third group. Lin Yu knew what the next question would be. So before he could ask, he casually mentioned he'd picked it up from a pile of loot, completely fooling the appraiser. Praising his impressive strength, the appraiser offered to buy the single coin for 1,500 yuan. Lin Yu was stunned. 1,500 for a single coin? That meant a full string would net him 1.5 million yuan, enough to buy a prime piece of real estate in Liancheng. But the other appraiser chimed in, that's a lowball offer, and you know it. When dealing with spectral currency, you don't just look at face value. You have to consider its yin energy, purity, and condition. And this coin is in pristine condition. It's perfectly minted and overflowing with pure yin energy. We'll buy it for 3,000 yuan. Lin Yu had hit the jackpot. As luck would have it, he had brought a few more and told the appraisers to get ready. The appraisers smirked, assuming our hero had 100 coins at most. But then, Lin Yu stepped forward, calmly upended his bag, and 1,000 pristine coins cascaded across the table. The on-the-spot appraisal left the crowd absolutely stunned. Help me, they cried, scrambling to contact Bai. One guy even tried to buy a single coin for 4,000 yuan, 20 silver, with no haggling. Soon, a massive line formed, with people begging Lin Yu to sell to them. They were willing to pay any fortune just to get their hands on a single yin coin. Guang Dao felt a chill run down his spine, hoping the mighty Fengdu Emperor wouldn't hold a grudge. At this moment, Lin Yu felt like he was standing at the very pinnacle of power. The divine system was no joke. He had truly become rich overnight. But he knew this wasn't just an auction. There were other factors to consider, like the care, organizations backing the buyers, and the favor shown to the powerful. He had to carefully decide who to sell to for the maximum benefit. Just then, Bai appeared, demanding order from the crowd. She slowly approached Lin Yu, and the appraisers immediately bowed low in reverence. Greetings, Lady Bai. Lin Yu watched her with suspicion. So this was one of the forum's founders, Bai, the same woman with 2 vengeful spirits guarding her door. Greetings, Lady Bai, he said respectfully. However, she completely ignored him and walked right past, heading for the appraisal table. She casually picked up a yin coin, examining it. A flawless yin currency, she commented. It's a bit of a waste to use this for a mere transaction. Lin Yu replied that he was in urgent need of funds. She silently put the coin down. I will purchase this one coin, she stated, for 7.5 million yuan. She then declared that, as Bai, representing the forum, she wished to befriend him. The crowd was in an uproar. Lady Bai, representing the entire forum, wanted to befriend the Fengdu Emperor. Rumor had it that she was already a peak level 6 ghost tamer, a true powerhouse in the Xia kingdom. And that's not even mentioning the massive organization at her back. Befriending Lady Bai was like getting a life-saving talisman. After a moment's hesitation, Lin Yu agreed to the deal. As expected of Lady Bai, her actions were truly extraordinary. She raised a lantern and chanted an incantation. Golden cicada, devour. Golden cicada, devour. Absorb the wealth that flows. A weeping ghost appeared, holding a suitcase in its mouth. It pushed the case towards him with great force. So, she wanted to test his strength. Lin Yu simply smiled and summoned his bamboo general. The surrounding crowd gasped in awe. The bamboo general caught the suitcase with a single hand. Even Guang Dao was floored by this exchange. The case was opened, checked, and then carefully closed. Lin Yu handed the string of coins to Bai. Pleasure doing business with you. She immediately took the coins and fed them straight into the weeping ghost's mouth. The pleasure is mine, she said, before vanishing without a trace. An announcement suddenly echoed. The official trading meet now begins. The space around them shifted, transforming into a grand hall filled with tables and chairs. Everyone scrambled to find a good seat. Despite this, one man still crept over to Lin Yu. Do you have any more of those yin coins? Sorry, pal, they're all sold out. Lin Yu turned and walked away. He still had things to do, and decided to excuse himself. Looking at the bustling marketplace, He couldn't believe he'd just made 7.5 million in one go. He figured he should buy something to get into the spirit of things. But it was all junk. What was he supposed to buy? Most of the items were complete trash. He told himself to be patient. Suddenly, the system interface appeared. An item had been scanned. 𝒂𝒐𝒓𝒅, a mid-grade artifact. He immediately spun around. It was an artifact on the same level as his resentment furnace necklace. It was the black wooden box the man across from him was selling. As soon as Lin Yu asked for the price, the man recognized him. "You're the master who sold those yin coins." He explained he found it in an ancient tomb, but it had weak yin energy and he didn't know its use. "If you want it, just give me 2,000. Deal." A system notification popped up. 𝒂𝒐𝒓𝒅 has automatically bound to the host. Just like that, he had acquired his very own offensive weapon. Afterwards, Lin Yu also picked up 3 low-grade artifacts, feeling his luck was incredible today. He then spotted 𝒂𝒂𝒍𝒎 sighing in a corner. "There you are. I've been looking all over for you." Lin Yu walked over and praised his collection, noting he had quite a few good things. 𝒂𝒂𝒍𝒎 said he'd found them in the desert and would give him a good price. Lin Yu picked up the wrinkled piece of paper from before and asked how much he wanted for it. The man, aware of his status, knew he wouldn't be interested in low-grade items. He warned him that if an expert couldn't appraise it, it was probably worthless. But Lin Yu was determined to buy it. After all, money was no object to him now. 𝒂𝒂𝒍𝒎 sighed and decided to just give it to him. Even the specialists couldn't figure it out, so it was useless in his hands. If you can use it, then it was meant to be yours. Besides, he considered Lin Yu his idol and was honored to gift it to him. Lin Yu silently wrapped the bandage around his hand. At the same time, he pulled out a yin coin and gave it to the young man. Even if it was worth 7.5 million, to him, that was a small price to pay for the true power this band held. The system panel lit up. Pharaoh's bizarre bandage has automatically bound to the host. At that moment, in a secret room, a figure in red and 𝒑𝒑𝒐𝒓𝒅 stood watching the exchange between Lin Yu and 𝒂𝒂𝒍𝒎. The red-robed figure was puzzled. Why would he buy unappraised items? 𝒑𝒑𝒑𝒏 admitted she didn't know, only that she found Lin Yu to be a very interesting person. She thought back to their earlier encounter. Based on her spiritual sense, Lin Yu should have been a mere level 1 ghost tamer, yet he had summoned a powerful ghost to counter her probe. It was undeniable. This Fengdu emperor had a method of concealing his aura. She couldn't see through his true strength at all, and now, it seemed he also possessed some special talent for appraisal. 𝒑𝒑𝒏 smiled faintly. "You truly are a man who piques one's curiosity." Meanwhile, the trading hall was still bustling with noise. Lin Yu wandered around and picked up a few more decent artifacts, but the money he'd earned was quickly dwindling. He wondered if he should sell a few things for some quick cash. Suddenly, he noticed a crowd gathering in one spot. People were wondering why the man was collecting items to awaken spiritual power. Even though he wasn't a ghost tamer himself, he saw a man standing next to a sign. It read, "Purchasing artifacts at high prices that can awaken spiritual sense and power. Requirement: no negative side effects." People in the crowd scoffed. Finding something like that was like searching for a needle in a haystack. Resisting ghostly corruption and becoming a tamer without paying a price? Impossible. "No side effects? You'd better go home and dream about it." The man shot up from his seat. "Our Li group from Jiangcheng will pay any price if such an item exists." He would accept any side effects for a price of 10 million. The crowd instantly went into an uproar. Then again, 10 million was a fair price to pay. The Li group controlled half of the entire maritime trade in Great Xia. Lin Yu instantly remembered the Li group's young mistress. The name sounded like it belonged to a girl, and what's more, she had also awakened her spirit sense. This was too much of a coincidence. He suddenly recalled that he had finished 3 bottles of the 9 nether wine, leaving 2 for General Zhu. He thought to himself that he should take 1 more bottle from the system. Lin Yu quickly stepped forward, announcing he had a bottle of spirit wine that could awaken one's spirit sense. The man squinted, staring intently at the bottle. It was that simple? Seeing this attitude, Lin Yu's killing intent suddenly flared. He warned the man that if he didn't believe him, there was no need for a transaction. The man immediately changed his tune, saying he believed him, and handed over a check for 10 million. He said he could cash it at the Li group anytime. The deal was done. Meanwhile, at the Li estate, Xiao Li was standing on her balcony, looking out. She wondered why her father had stopped her from attending the auction. She had already become a player in the horror game. She couldn't run away from this cruel world forever. She remembered that Lin Yu hadn't called her either. She had no idea if he was even at this auction. Just then, her father approached, saying the person he sent to buy the spiritual awakening item had returned. He then presented a precious bottle of wine for her to see. Xiao Li realized it was the same kind of wine Lin Yu drank before. She happily took it, thinking he had agreed to sell her the very wine that could subdue even vengeful ghosts. Slowly, she opened the cap. This was definitely the same wine that Lin Yu had used. Her father urged her to drink it quickly. He wanted his daughter to have a higher chance of survival when she entered the next instance. That's right, Xiao Li downed the bottle in one gulp. She couldn't keep letting others protect her forever. She had to become stronger. The next time she met Lin Yu, she needed to be strong enough to be his ally. By now, Lin Yu was back home, searching for information on Xiao Li online. It really was her. Whether in the horror game or as a super-rich heiress, in the real world, she was just a weak, ordinary person. He reflected that, even with his system and trillions at his command, he couldn't afford to get too comfortable. Although ghosts were restricted by rules, the deeper one ventured into the ghost world. The higher the stakes, the ghost's power would surge, and the restrictions would loosen. Just like the forums mentioned, in the hide-and-seek instance, the only path to survival for players was to have no escape route at all. Lin Yu shot to his feet. He knew that one day, the rules would no longer offer a way out. When that time came, the only option would be a head-on confrontation with the ghosts. He summoned the system. The information panel appeared. Current level, Tier 1 Ghost Controller. Spirit Sense, 30. Spirit Power, 397. He needed 50 Spirit Sense and 500 Spirit Power to upgrade to a Tier 2 controller. Lin Yu analyzed his progress. After 2 weeks of meditation training from the forums, he was not far from Tier 2. He also noticed that because his Spirit Sense had leveled up, the system could now identify the specific functions and items of his yin tools. He took them out and equipped them. 2 mid-grade yin tools, one for offense, one for defense, and 1 high-grade yin tool that doubled his control and healing. It seemed his combat power was finally starting to take shape. The system opened a new instance. This time, the mission was called Higan Apartment. It was another 4-dimensional spatial collapse. Lin Yu casually put his hands in his pockets. Horror game, he said with excitement. I'm here. Welcome to the horror game. This instance is called Higan Apartment. Mission objective: survive in Higan Apartment for 3 days and pay the rent. Number of survivors from the previous instance. Lin Yu's eyes shot open to find himself lying on a bed in a hotel. A set of rules for the living was posted on the wall. First, the room key is the only proof of a tenant's identity. If lost, it will not be replaced, and we are not responsible. Second, Higan Apartment strictly prohibits loud noises. Third, the surroundings of the apartment are chaotic. Tenants must be cautious when opening the door for visitors. Try not to open the windows. Fourth, do not enter another person's room without permission. Fifth, the apartment management staff will conduct regular patrols. Please do not litter or damage the room. Sixth, curfew is at 11 p.m. Please be mindful of the time. Lin Yu walked around the problem's room, assessing the situation. Most of the ghosts in this instance likely killed based on these rules. He considered the 6 regulations. For most, this would be a difficult instance. But for him, the mission objective was no problem. If he paid the rent directly, he could safely stay in this den until the game ended. But knowing his own personality, he would never choose that path. If every instance had its own operating system, his opponents would only get stronger, making things more difficult. Therefore, he had to seize this opportunity to level up. He stood in the long, empty hallway, filled with countless doors. How was he supposed to search? The instance had indicated 3 participants. Lin Yu looked up at the towering apartment building, analyzing it. This meant that in this skyscraper, every room was like a nest, likely inhabited by a ghost. Back inside the hallway, his attention was caught by a map of the Higan apartment posted on the wall. The first floor was a public plaza with a supermarket, a food court, and a laundry room. The second floor was an entertainment center, a supply store for employees, and the security office. The third floor was the business center of Higan apartment, where you could pay rent and recharge your key card. The fourth floor housed a warehouse and living quarters for the staff. Floors 5 to 25 were residential. Floors 26 to 29 were a secret area, off limits, and from the 30th floor upwards was a revolving restaurant. Wow. This map was several times larger than the Yellow Springs Hotel. Lin Yu decided to go down to the business center on the 3rd floor to look for clues. He quickly pressed the elevator button. The doors opened, and a thick, metallic smell of blood filled the air. Lin Yu stepped inside, casually covering his nose. An ordinary person probably wouldn't dare to enter this elevator. But then again, the rules prevented ghosts from directly killing players. Considering his current strength, Lin Yu was confident he could handle any situation. He then reached out and pressed the button for floor 3. The elevator lights suddenly went out. A ghost appeared, demanding he pay a usage fee. In these tough times, it insisted there were no free rides. Lin Yu turned. Their eyes met. He wanted to stare at it for a long, long time. Then he spoke, asking how much it cost. A ghastly purple face with a wide, gaping mouth spoke. 1 person, 1 ride, 1 yuan. Hand over the money, or choose option 2. Pay with your flesh, blood, or soul. Lin Yu couldn't believe his ears. That was ridiculously cheap, almost an act of kindness. He asked the system. The system was ready to exchange 101 yuan bills. Shoving a single note into the elevator ghost's mouth, he demanded to be taken down. But the ghost didn't believe a human this weak could possibly have that kind of cash. This was all part of its lethal little game. The ghost's expression was off script. It seemed to be searching for a loophole in its own rules. Cash is not accepted, it sneered. This elevator belongs to the Equinox apartments. Payment is by card only. And since he wasn't a member, he could only use his room key. The ghost assumed that, as a newcomer, his card was empty. If you don't offer up a little blood, it hissed, I'll make sure you never leave this place. Lin Yu let out a long, weary sigh. He had given the creature a chance, but it chose to play games. As he raised his arm, the ghost flinched back in alarm. It warned him that using ghost currency directly was a serious violation. But, it offered, if you voluntarily give me an arm, I will definitely consider sparing your life. Lin Yu snapped his fingers. Zhujiang appeared, muttering, how annoying. The ghost began to tremble uncontrollably as a terrifying slash mark appeared in the air before it. The spirit was furious. You want my master's arm? It roared. The purple ghost was utterly petrified. Could this be a fierce ghost? It scrambled backward in terror, spitting out a silver coin. Zhujiang swiftly caught it and presented it to Lin Yu. The purple ghost now had a much more cooperative attitude. I was just joking around, it stammered. For fun. No arm needed, no money either. From now on, your elevator rides will always be free of charge. Lin Yu tossed the coin in his hand, his voice like ice. You think this is a joke? In a flash, Zhujiang's long butcher knife was poking the ghost's thigh. The elevator doors shuddered for a moment. Zhujiang realized that the ghost and the elevator were one and the same. If it killed the ghost now, the elevator would be disabled. Lin Yu agreed to spare its life. As it thanked him profusely, he shoved the coin back into the purple ghost's mouth and demanded it tell him everything about the Equinox members. The purple ghost's eyes bulged with fear as it explained that Equinox members were the most respected residents in the building, a symbol of ultimate status. They could freely access the upper floors, and even the binding rules of the apartment complex hardly applied to them. But members also had to follow their own rules, which were decided unilaterally by the Equinox Council. Lin Yu considered this. He still hadn't found a way to become a member. This purple ghost was just a low-level spirit, its power limited to the confines of the elevator. It only overheard things from other guests and didn't know any real details. Lin Yu fell into a thoughtful silence. In the Equinox apartments, being a member was clearly a position of immense importance. He knew he had to find a way to become one as soon as possible. The elevator had arrived. The doors opened to the 3rd floor. The ghost informed him they had reached his destination. Lin Yu instructed Zhujiang to return, deciding to scout the area alone to get the lay of the land. He saw that the area was divided into 4 large zones: a fee and recharge center, an information center, a business management center, and a complaint center. A complaint center? Lin Yu had to wonder if it was for filing complaints against ghosts. What a surreal place. As for him, the information and business centers were still a mystery. He decided to head to the fee and recharge center first. Surely, as long as he was handing over money, they wouldn't give him a hard time. He stepped inside. The ghosts here looked like circus clowns. Lin Yu quickly assessed them. The low-level service staff were all vengeful spirits, even weaker than Li Chuyin and Zhang Boliang from the Netherworld Hotel. Holding his room card, Lin Yu slowly approached the recharge counter. Thinking about the apartment's system, this was a massive operation. The higher floors must hold high-level ghost entities. These small fries only existed to be exploited and to suck their victims dry. He arrived at the desk. I'd like to pay my room card fee, he said. The clown-faced ghost sneered and snatched the card. For someone in customer service, her attitude was terrible. If it were up to me, I'd have fired her on the spot. She demanded he pay 2,500 yuan. This included the room fee, utilities, service fees, and business management fees. Dining, bathing, and resting would all be charged to the room card. Lin Yu immediately recalled the powerful ghosts at the Netherworld Hotel, who couldn't even scrape together 2,500 in cash. It was clear the cost of living here was much higher. The hag-like ghost saw Lin Yu's hesitation and started her intimidation tactics. "You must deposit at least 500 yuan before tonight's curfew," she warned. "And you have 3 days to pay the full 2,500. If not," she grinned, "we'll use other methods to collect the fee." She thought she could scare a newcomer, but she was mistaken. Lin Yu was a veteran, and he saw right through her pathetic little tricks. "Honey, I've seen this routine 1,000 times before." The ghost employee was instantly stunned. She returned the card and told him that if a new guest like him had no money to pay, he should go to the information center and find some work. So, one of the functions of the information center was to post job listings. How progressive. But the ghost's condescending attitude returned, and before he could explain, she cut him off. "We don't welcome poor and lazy ghosts here," she spat. "Now get lost." Lin Yu let out another long sigh. It seemed these minor ghosts wouldn't learn their lesson until he revealed his true power. What a waste of time. He pointed to a sign that read, "The customer is king, service is number one," and told the ghost to reconsider her service attitude. A customer comes to pay, and you start screaming? With service like that, you'll be fired soon. However, the ghost just laughed mockingly, saying that sign was only for VIP guests. She told him he was just a new resident in the normal area, with not a single coin in his card, and that he should stop dreaming. He might even end up as roast meat on a dinner table by nightfall. "Don't tempt me, old man." Lin Yu tossed the sign aside. No wonder they say small fry ghosts are a hassle. Their spiritual sense is so weak they can't even tell who they're dealing with. "And who said I don't have money to pay the fee?" Lin Yu casually tossed 100,000 yuan onto the table, causing a commotion among the staff in the room. They all looked at the tycoon before them. All they could do was wish they had that kind of money. The ghost energy was so pure, they affirmed that if they had money, they would never work in service. Lin Yu gave a cold laugh at the pile of money he'd just thrown down. He ordered the employee to deposit all the money for him. "So, am I considered a VIP now?" The little ghost trembled as it hurriedly gathered the money. "Yes, you are a VIP," it affirmed, explaining that his Ming currency was untainted by yin energy, was valued at 100,000 yuan, and he would deposit it for him. A moment later, he returned the card with both hands, bowing respectfully. Lin Yu glanced at his room card, and the balance was displayed right on its surface. No wonder that fool had the audacity to call him poor. The little ghost then asked him if he planned on reporting him. Of course, a man like him had no time to waste on such trivial matters. This dismissive response left the little ghost utterly stunned. She was like a savior in his eyes. He vowed to never forget this kindness for the rest of his life. With his mission complete, Lin Yu continued on his journey, but he had no idea where to go next. Then, he remembered. There were still 2 other players here. He had no clue what kind of people they were. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell. So, he'd made the right choice, after all. If he didn't have an ace up his sleeve, he never would have dared step into that cursed elevator. The stairwell door burst open. A man emerged, his arm host to a writhing, level 4 parasitic ghost. He stopped short, surprised to see Lin Yu, and immediately questioned him. "Are you a level 1 ghost controller?" he asked, then quickly followed up. "Is this floor safe?" Lin Yu answered honestly that it was, for now. The man let out a massive sigh of relief. Reaching into his coat, he pulled out a cloth bundle. Inside was a piece of raw, red meat. Without a second thought, he fed the flesh to the gaping maw on his own bicep. Once fed, the ghost vanished, and his arm returned to normal. Raw flesh. That must be the price of his contract. The man flexed his wrist, then turned back to Lin Yu. "How did you get up here so fast?" he asked. "Don't tell me you took the elevator? What kind of horrors are lurking in there?" Lin Yu remained perfectly calm. He answered matter-of-factly that a vengeful spirit inside demands a toll. But even if you pay, it will find another excuse to attack you. Luckily, its combat power isn't that high, Lin Yu added, turning the question back on him. "What did you run into on the stairs?" From the man's story, he learned a crucial detail. The stairwell had no surveillance. It was a lawless zone in the afterlife apartments. He'd been ambushed by 6 vengeful spirits and hunted by a malicious ghost demanding cigarette money. Certain steps were rigged with annoying traps. The message was clear. In the afterlife apartments, nether currency was the only way to pave your path forward. Lin Yu pointed toward the recharging room. He'd already been there. "You need at least 500 on your card," he explained, "and recharge it within 3 days to avoid punishment." He added that the information center also provides jobs, a guaranteed way to earn nether currency. The man muttered to himself for a moment. Confident, he could afford it. This piqued Lin Yu's curiosity. Back at the trading post, nether currency was incredibly difficult for players to obtain. He was sure of it. But then again, this man was a level 4 ghost controller. "I've already charged my card," Lin Yu said. "I can go with you, and then we can explore the other floors together." "All right, little bro." The man didn't see a low-level player like him as a burden at all. What a good dude. He handed his room card to the little ghost, ready to deposit his funds. The imp tried its usual scam, but one sharp, silent stare from Lin Yu shut it down instantly. The ghost's attitude flipped. The man, who called himself Mad Blade, pulled out 2,700 nether currency. Lin Yu almost burst out laughing. The little ghost was absolutely stunned. What kind of demonically captivating pure yin energy was this? It processed the 2,700 nether currency perfectly and returned the card with the utmost respect. "If there's a number 2 when it comes to being enthusiastic, no one would dare claim number 1, Mad Blade boasted. He then offered to lend Lin Yu money if he was short. He mentioned meeting a handsome and generous young man who gave him a whole coin, worth 10 nether currency. Lin Yu instantly knew who he was talking about, but kept quiet, just giving him a thumbs up. They walked with their arms around each other's shoulders, chatting away. Mad Blade declared Lin Yu a sharp and resourceful young man, and said his online handle was always Mad Blade. He suggested they add each other as friends after they escaped the instance. Lin Yu couldn't exactly say he was the Fengdu Great Emperor, so he twisted the name, calling himself Fengdu. Mad Blade even praised the name, saying it sounded epic. Pointing ahead, he led them toward their next destination, the information center. Inside, notice boards were everywhere. Daily news bulletins, ads for homemade elixirs, lost item notices, and one-for-one trade offers were plastered all over the walls. An old ghost was hawking his services nearby. Next to him was a board with the rules: 10 currency for a normal notice, with premium spots costing extra, card payment only, no credit. After a moment of observation, Lin Yu concluded that, if you were out of nether currency, you could sell your items or take on work right here. Mad Blade figured that working for these shops would surely come with extra rules beyond those of the afterlife apartments. For a player, that meant more danger. Fortunately, neither of them had to resort to that, but just then, it dawned on Mad Blade. Fengdu was only a level 1 controller, yet he seemed to have plenty of cash. After a while of getting no useful info, they decided to check out the upper floors. Here, it seemed money really could solve everything. Lin Yu spoke up. He invited Mad Blade to take the elevator with him. The man hesitated, worried about the massive toll the ghost might demand. Just as he finished his thought, the ghost appeared. A purple specter popped into view. Without blinking, Lin Yu told the ghost to tone it down, so it wouldn't scare his friend. He then casually asked if one extra person would be a problem for the fee. Mad Blade was speechless, his mind racing. This Fengdu was no simple player. The vengeful spirit in the elevator was incredibly powerful. Yet, in this confined space, Lin Yu had subdued it with just a few words. To easily suppress a vengeful spirit with such a potent yin aura, he was definitely hiding his true strength. They stepped out of the elevator and onto the first-floor corridor. Before them, a crowd of bizarre, colorful ghosts were cackling amongst themselves. Their eyes followed the two humans' every move. Lin Yu noted they were all malicious and vengeful class spirits. As long as they weren't provoked, they should be safe. Lin Yu's eyes scanned the row of shops: a laundry room, a supermarket, and a food court. Each shop took up about a third of the space. He then realized something unsettling. This was a completely enclosed space, with no main door leading outside. Mad Blade scratched his head, then suggested a plan. Let's check out the supermarket first. He figured he wasn't qualified to think about the bigger picture yet. Lin Yu immediately agreed, and the two headed inside. They entered the Life supermarket and were greeted by a clownish employee. The welcome was friendly enough, but her breath was absolutely foul. Mad Blade picked up a pack of instant noodles. The price was an outrageous 15 nether currency, but they had no choice. To maintain their fighting strength, they had to eat. On the other hand, this was the best-selling item. He complained about the price, but then his hands did something else entirely. Mad Blade decided to just drink water and bought a massive stack of toilet paper for storage instead. Lin Yu was rendered utterly speechless. Since he didn't need to buy anything, only Mad Blade went to the checkout. Mad Blade thought to himself that it must be incredibly difficult for a level 1 controller to scrape together the 2,500 for the fee, let alone afford food. After paying, he turned to Lin Yu, saying he planned to head back to his room to drop off his things. He asked our hero what his plans were, only to see that he wanted to look around a bit more. Mad Blade let out a sigh. He must be trying to find a job to earn some money, he thought. The pride of these young people is just too high. The man threw an arm over his shoulder, telling him he lived in room 1111, an easy number to remember. He insisted that if Lin Yu needed anything, he had to find him. Before closing the door, he waved one last time. Lin Yu didn't know what to make of the situation. Was that guy overthinking things? Shrugging it off, he stepped towards the elevator, ready to check out the second floor, home to the high-end lifestyle store for members. Just as he stepped inside, a purple ghost attendant greeted him. Had it overheard the other ghosts talking about him? In the elevator? Calmly, Lin Yu requested to be taken to the second floor. Asterisk, ding, asterisk. The elevator doors slid open, and as Lin Yu stepped out, he was taken aback. The second floor was indeed a shopping center for the wealthy. It truly lived up to its reputation as the most luxurious place in the Equinox apartments. Lin Yu approached a grand entrance flanked by two ghost receptionists, looking prim and proper. Seeing the main character approach, they immediately opened their mouths to greet him. "Hello, sir. This establishment is for VIP members only. We do not serve regular customers." Lin Yu coolly asked, "How much is the membership? I'll pay it in full." The ghost receptionist explained that the store didn't have a membership fee. Instead, once the balance on a room card reached a certain standard, it would automatically be upgraded to VIP status. Lin Yu casually held up his card, motioning for her to see if this was enough. "My man has deep pockets." But the receptionist, whose eyes were faster than her brain, scoffed, telling him to give up on becoming a member. However, when her eyes glanced at the balance, her jaw hit the floor. Holy hell, 100,000 yuan. That was enough to buy her pathetic life 50 times over. The ghost receptionist immediately bowed, at a perfect 90-degree angle. "You have become a VIP member, sir. Please, welcome." Lin Yu strolled through the supermarket, marveling at the products. The items Mad Blade bought compared to this? It was the difference between a gutter and the ocean. If Mad Blade knew, he'd probably cry his eyes out. He picked up a tray of demon thigh meat, priced at 600 underworld coins. If he let Chef Zhu cook this, it would surely be as good as Matriarch Zhang's. With that thought, Lin Yu placed it into his shopping basket. Just then, the system interface lit up with a mission. Spend more, finish sooner was still incomplete. Mission content. Make 3. Purchases on items exceeding 100,000 yuan. The spending bonus cannot exceed 5 times the item's price, and you cannot actively increase the price. Mission rewards. A cashback. Bonus. 5 yin origin vials, 10 soul-catching talismans, and 10 spirit extermination talismans. Lin Yu considered it. It was rare to find a dungeon where he could spend money directly. He absolutely couldn't hold back. The moment he decided, he dashed through the aisles, moving from one section to another, buying everything in sight. This frantic spree left the two ghost receptionists utterly speechless. It was like he was shopping without even looking at the price tags. Every item he chose was the most expensive kind. For someone so young, he had to come from an incredibly wealthy background. Lin Yu, meanwhile, was reveling in the feeling of buying out the entire supermarket. 15,000 yuan for a bottle of Life Dream Kill wine, 8,000 yuan for a Green Shadow Fox brew. Chef Zhu would definitely love these. He let out a sigh at the checkout counter. Even after buying so much, the total was only 56,000 yuan. He thought to himself that he'd already tried his best to buy out this entire lifestyle store. The dwarf ghost manager hurried over to greet him, respectfully calling Lin Yu the store's VIP among VIPs. He said it was an honor to vie their honor sides, have him visit. As a token of their appreciation, they would give him a small gift. A kitchenware gift box produced by the Equinox Revolving Restaurant on the 30th floor. He figured that since Lin Yu bought so many ingredients, he'd need quality kitchen tools. He added that even Equinox members struggle to acquire this set, making it a priceless item, circulated only internally. The system panel scanned the item. Second-grade medium-quality yin tool Equinox kitchen set has been automatically bound to the host. Lin Yu was surprised to receive a second-grade yin tool. He immediately equipped it for Chef Zhu. The chef instantly appeared, holding the kitchen set, unable to help but exclaim that this was a true treasure. The dwarf manager flinched, sensing an incredibly special aura from the chef. He then pointed to the piles of goods, saying that all these items would be delivered to Lin Yu's room. After getting a nod of approval, he ordered his staff to deliver everything with care, warning them not to damage a single item belonging to their VIP guest. Seeing the dwarf's professional management under the Equinox brand, Lin Yu stroked his chin and asked, "What if I wanted to become an Equinox member, or even join the Equinox Council?" Hearing this, the dwarf's eyes nearly popped out of his head as he asked for confirmation. Of course, who wouldn't want the privileges of an Equinox member? Lin Yu needed to complete his system mission, which required him to live in a place with higher fees. Floors 26 to 29 were exclusively for members, with access to the revolving restaurant. Only a place like that would give him the opportunity he needed. The dwarf trembled before this powerhouse who'd fallen from the sky. He admitted that while he didn't know how the Equinox Council was managed, he had heard a few things about becoming a prestigious Equinox member. He warned that the conditions were much, much harder than becoming a member of his store. To become an Equinox member, from what he knew, there were 3 paths. Regardless of which path was chosen, all of them required a membership fee of 150,000 yuan. Upon hearing this, Lin Yu breathed a sigh of relief. Money was like water to him. He told the little guy to get to the main point. The dwarf continued, explaining that the first method was the one most Equinox members chose, contributing to the Equinox Apartments and its council. This meant either working diligently for many years with an outstanding record, or preventing major incidents that threatened the residents' interests, or even proposing incredibly beneficial, constructive ideas. Any of these could earn a chance at membership. Lin Yu calculated in his head. He had to leave this dungeon in 3 days. If he followed this method, contributing little by little, he would never make it in time. The second method, the dwarf explained, is a household vote. After submitting an application at the service center, all the merchant households will vote on whether the applicant can become a member. As long as more than half of them agree, you're in. When Lin Yu asked about the third way, the dwarf's expression brightened. He said he'd only heard about it through rumors passed down by the old-timers. To become a member of the Equinox Apartments, one only needs a recommendation from 10 members or 3 joint managers. A slow grin spread across Lin Yu's face. If money could solve the problem, then it wasn't a problem at all. The only real challenge was making contact with those exclusive members and managers. Lin Yu slid a bill toward the dwarf ghost, thanking him for the intel. It was a well-deserved reward. Money makes the world go round, even for ghosts, and the dwarf was no exception. Snatching the bill, he sputtered that it was all part of his duty. As Lin Yu prepared to leave, the dwarf bowed deeply, wishing him a safe journey. He promised that the items would be sent directly to his room immediately. As Lin Yu walked, he mulled it over. Based on what the shopkeeper said, it seemed this place had rules that could be bent with cash. He was confident he could test that theory. On the 3rd floor, an announcement was made for Blade, and a young man with a mushroom haircut. Lin Yu was certain this was the 3rd player from their instance. The kid had activated his spiritual sense, but his power was less than a 1/5 of a Tier 1 ghost controller's. If he tried to survive this instance alone, it would be an agonizing ordeal. Seeing his teammate, Blade slung an arm around Mushroomhead, then turned to Lin Yu. "Hey, what are you doing here?" He simply replied that he'd just been gathering intel at the shop. Now, he was heading to the business center, but in Blade's eyes, this was a transparent lie. He saw Lin Yu as a proud but struggling player, looking for work. Blade assumed Lin Yu was back, because he'd run into Mushroomhead, a total newbie on the 11th floor, who had only survived 2 instances. Talk about bad luck, getting thrown into a 6-rule instance. Lin Yu figured Blade was taking the kid to pay some kind of fee. He was certain the guy wouldn't believe he was a rookie too. However, Blade was actually leading Mushroomhead to the information center to find a job. The kid was so broke, he had to sell his labor just to survive. Lin Yu could see that Blade genuinely wanted to help Mushroomhead, but he knew protection alone wasn't enough. Without leveling up his own power, the kid might survive this time, but the next instance would be a guaranteed death sentence. After wishing them well, Lin Yu took off. He knew he had to seize this opportunity. He needed to use this instance to push his own strength to its absolute limit. Only then could he survive what came next. Heading straight for the business center, he pushed open the doors. Inside, 5 ghosts were at work. An old woman, clearly a vengeful ghost, addressed him first. She introduced herself as the on-duty director of the Equinox Apartments Business Center and asked what he required. Casually taking a seat on a sofa, Lin Yu stated he wanted to apply for membership. This declaration startled the director. She quickly approached, saying she needed to check his contribution level, or he could present a letter of recommendation. But our main character doesn't play by those rules. He simply instructed his system to provide 1.5 million yuan in 100,000 yuan bills. The director scoffed, saying he needed to meet other qualifications before paying the fee. She was about to dismiss the money in his hand as a few flimsy pieces of paper, but Lin Yu's next move left her utterly speechless. The bills flew into the air, suspended in a captivating dance, unleashing an intensely pure and powerful yin energy. These were 100,000 yuan Ming notes, 1.5 million in total, 10 times the standard membership fee. She scrambled to her feet, snatching every bill from the air, stammering that her old, failing eyes hadn't recognized their true value. Lin Yu was using this money as his contribution. The director was thunderstruck. Who in their right mind flexed this hard? A smirk played on Lin Yu's lips as he asked if this was enough for a VIP membership. She told him to wait a moment while she called the manager. Hello? Yes. A new resident wishes to contribute 1.5 million yuan to the apartment complex. After a rapid-fire conversation, the director told him to please wait, as the manager was coming to personally handle his upgrade. Lin Yu sat back and waited patiently. He recalled reading on the forums that the value of Ming notes was determined by the yin energy they contained. 100,000 yuan notes were notoriously difficult to craft and incredibly rare. For the staff to agree so quickly, and for the manager himself to personally appear, it all had to be because of the money's quality. This was simpler than he'd ever imagined. The door swung open. A man in a black cloak stepped inside. Undoubtedly the manager. The director bowed low, addressing him as "My lord." He turned to Lin Yu for confirmation. After a nod, the manager picked up the stack of bills, his eyes widening. They were authentic 100,000 yuan notes. But he wasn't so blinded by greed that he didn't question why someone would throw around such wealth. He wanted to know Lin Yu's true purpose. Lin Yu answered bluntly, "I'm here to live, but my money is piling up so fast it's practically killing me. I need a place big enough to store my 100 million Ming yuan. Besides," he added, "I hear you offer certain services to your members. Naturally, I want to become one of you." He then asked if his contribution was sufficient. Of course, the manager was ecstatic to receive such a huge sum. Using a donation to buy one's way into membership was something he'd never seen before. He was slightly taken aback. A system notification appeared. Mission progress. Make 3 purchases from a valuable target exceeding 100,000 yuan. Prices cannot be artificially inflated. Progress, 1 of 3. Rewards, 1 critical rebate card, 5 spirit fluids, 10 soul-trapping talismans, and 10 spirit-annihilating talismans. So, it counted towards the mission. Lin Yu mused aloud. You guys really know how to live lavishly. The manager and director saw him as nothing more than a soulless, nouveau riche fool. After a moment's thought, the manager explained the rights of a member, then pulled out a card. This is your exclusive room key for the Equinox apartments, and also your proof of identity. You will receive a VIP room on the 26th floor. No curfew, no mandatory room cleaning. He then issued a special reminder. Do not cause a disturbance in public areas, and do not enter other people's rooms without permission. Lin Yu reached out and took the card. The manager began a grand tour, detailing the floor layouts and the luxurious services available to high-level members. Card games, singing, parties. They had it all. There were even special transactions. To Lin Yu, this sounded perfect, a chance to finally let loose and spend some serious cash. Seeing the manager ask if he had any more questions, Lin Yu immediately stated that he wanted to buy a seat on the Equinox Management Council. Any price would be acceptable. He was a man of means. For a second, the manager's jaw hung open in disbelief. He shot to his feet and bluntly refused. That is not for sale, for any price. To earn that seat, you must pass a series of intense assessments. Lin Yu understood his meaning perfectly. He quickly offered his services as compensation. The manager froze for a full 5 seconds, his brain short-circuiting. Then, his entire attitude shifted. He coughed nervously and asked Lin Yu to wait while he consulted the others. A smirk appeared on Lin Yu's face. His goal was already within reach. The sheer power of money was truly something else. Satisfied, he casually stepped forward and shook the manager's hand, telling the young man he'd await the good news. The manager responded with the utmost courtesy. But the moment Lin Yu left, his legs buckled. He collapsed into a chair, gasping for air. His superior rushed over, demanding to know who that mysterious figure was. But the manager could only shake his head. He had no idea. The man's aura felt like that of a ghost tamer, a player within the game. But what kind of human could possibly pull out 1.5 million nether coins? Each bill was worth 100,000 and radiated a powerful nether aura. His control over yin energy had to be terrifyingly high. It was clear, whether he was acting alone or representing a major faction, he was no ordinary existence. He knew this man hadn't come here by chance. To a being of his level, the outer ghost world should be utterly worthless. This could only mean his target was their Equinox apartments. But was he here to make a business deal? Or to probe their defenses? The manager shot to his feet. This was a situation that required an immediate meeting with his colleagues. Meanwhile, Lin Yu had returned to his floor, approaching room 1202 where a package was waiting. If only he'd known he was switching rooms, he wouldn't have had it sent to the 12th floor. Now, he had to waste his energy hauling this heavy thing all the way to the 26th floor. Suddenly, a gang of ghost brats materialized, looking to cause trouble. These must be the spirits that the overzealous swordsman had mentioned in the elevator. Lin Yu couldn't figure out why they were here. A ghost with chains for eyes stared at the package, wondering who would be willing to spend so much on luxury goods. A one-eyed ghost declared the owner must be a total moron, working himself to the bone just for fancy trinkets while they couldn't even afford ramen. The purple-haired one decided to act on his thieving impulses, reasoning that he was just holding the items for the owner. Besides, the rules never explicitly forbade theft. He was certain that once they gave the loot to their boss, the owner would be too scared to retaliate. Lin Yu stood with his arms crossed, coldly observing the greedy little spirits. He finally spoke, his sharp voice making them jump. "And just what do you think you're doing with my package?" The purple-haired ghost rudely waved a hand at him. "Butt out of our business. Scram so we can get to work." Lin Yu's expression remained unchanged. "So, you're attempting to steal my property. Is that it?" The other little ghosts were instantly terrified. He was the resident of room 1206 and a ghost tamer, but the purple-haired one just rolled his eyes, his voice dripping with defiance. "Where's your proof that this belongs to you?" he sneered, before declaring it was their property. The damn fools even started doing a ridiculous celebratory dance right in front of his package. Lin Yu was sure they wouldn't dare attack him here, under the watch of building security. A moment later, they suddenly froze. Then, they snatched the box and scrambled away towards their so-called secret base. Lin Yu slowly walked toward the stairwell, a sinister smile on his face. "This time, your entire nest is getting wiped out." His words sent a chill down their spines. The purple-haired ghost brandished a small knife, thinking Lin Yu was the one in over his head. "Don't you know this is our turf?" he blustered. "Oh, is that right?" Lin Yu replied, completely unbothered. He couldn't care less. Whose territory this was would be made clear very soon. He actually needed a place without surveillance to act freely anyway. Besides, reporting this to security would be a pain. He gestured to the pathetic box cutter in the ghost's hand. "What are you planning to do with that?" he asked with fake innocence. "Peel an apple for me?" The taunt hit its mark, and the purple-haired ghost's pride flared. He raised the blade aggressively. "Keep talking trash. Once I've shredded your soul, we'll see who's laughing." But at that moment, a new figure appeared. It was Chef Zhu. The head chef's sudden arrival was enough to scare the ghost brats witless. He eagerly brandished the new kitchen tools Lin Yu had just given him. "You want to shred a soul?" he boomed. "For that, you need a proper knife like this, little ones." The purple-haired ghost was so petrified he dropped his box cutter. He tried to flee, screaming for his boss, but ignorance always has a price. With a swift motion, Chef Zhu plunged his cleaver into the brat. "Congratulations on your one-way ticket to hell." Chain Eye and One Eye also tried to escape in a panic. This was the perfect chance for Lin Yu to test his new yin artifact. A crumpled piece of paper shot from his hand. In the next second, it unfurled, binding the two spirits tightly. These punks were all talk. The moment they were captured, they started begging for their lives. Utterly and truly pathetic. Lin Yu looked away in disgust and turned to his subordinate. "So, Chef Zhu, how do you like the new kitchenware?" The old ghost was practically glowing with delight. Not only could he now assist in battle, but he could also prepare his master's meals. And as luck would have it, 3 fresh ingredients had just been delivered to their door. He wanted Lin Yu to try a dish made from ghost meat once more. Lin Yu blanched and quickly retracted the paper binding. He only ate it last time because he was forced to. He was about to refuse. But his subordinate had a look of absolute confidence, promising that he'd learned from experience. The meal would be delicious, balanced, and would even grant a power boost. Fine, he'd indulge him this time. He wasn't particularly interested in the power boost anyway. Giggling with glee, Chef Zhu tied up the 3 conscious ghosts. So useful. Not a single scrap will be wasted. But just a second later, Lin Yu announced that more ingredients had arrived. The ghost brat's boss finally appeared, his voice booming. "Who dares touch my underlings?" A large, fat ghost with a duck-like mouth waddled forward, laughing menacingly. Seeing his backup, the purple-haired ghost regained his arrogance. He declared that Lin Yu's group was dead meat. Chef Zhu, however, was ecstatic. A high-grade ingredient. He promised to cook his master a magnificent feast when he was done. And just like that, it was over. The boss who had just arrived was annihilated in an instant. Chef Zhu hefted the corpses and approached his master. He swore he would prepare him a grand feast. Lin Yu smiled, picking up his package. "I also bought you 2 bottles of fine wine, Zhu, along with some other high-quality ingredients." He then asked the chef to handle dinner. Tears of joy streamed down the old ghost's face as he received the wine like a sacred treasure. "Long live the master. Long, long may you reign." Lin Yu realized he couldn't let others know about Chef Zhu's existence just yet. "Follow me," he said, heading for the stairwell. "This place is probably rigged with traps anyway." With the path cleared by his phantom steed, Lin Yu expected a grand exit. Instead, he was met with the cold denial of a high-tech smart lock. This was the exclusive VIP lobby of the Heigen residence. With a flick of his wrist, he scanned the room card, and the high-security door slid open, revealing the world beyond. A wave of dense yin energy washed over him, making him gasp. He had expected some high-class spectral items, but this was on another level. This confirmed Lin Yu's suspicion. The Heigen residence wasn't just expensive, it was a lavish nexus of power. As they headed to room 2643, the sheer opulence that greeted them was almost overwhelming. Lin Yu walked straight to the floor-to-ceiling glass window. Before him lay the entire untamed vista of this instance's ghost world, a world of savage, predatory energy. Here, even ghosts were just food for the stronger. In contrast, this horror instance placed strict rules on human players, but for a being like him, those rules were merely suggestions. That declaration was more than friendly, but his train of thought was cut short by the voice of Chef Truk. Dinner was ready, and it was a feast fit for an emperor. Lin Yu couldn't help but marvel at the banquet spread before him, praising the chef's masterful skill. His craft was truly on the level of a five-star professional. It seemed the old ghost was hiding his true talent. Chef Truk, though pleased by the praise, tried to act humble. He confessed his dislike for the domineering manager, whose constant paranoia kept him from truly dedicating himself to his art. Pouring a glass of wine for Lin Yu, he wanted to express his gratitude for all the help, not to mention the gift of supreme-grade kitchen equipment. Lin Yu had grown fond of this generous ghostly friend. He quickly returned the gesture, urging the chef to sit. They would drink together, cup for cup, until they couldn't stand. Suddenly, a blood-red message glowed in his vision. The notification confirmed it. 3 participants remained. The first day had ended. It seemed Madblade and Mushroomhead had safely made it through. Lin Yu sat cross-legged, focused. System. Open my status window. He lightly touched the air, recalling what the forum said. Cultivating the power to control ghosts was notoriously difficult, and the closer one got to leveling up, the easier it was to hit a bottleneck. The only solutions were using dangerous spectral materials with massive side effects, or facing a life-and-death crisis to unlock one's potential. But for him, with practically limitless funds, which meant an endless supply of spectral energy, and Chef Truk's guidance, bottlenecks were a complete non-issue. He looked at the results. Any material stored within the system's space wouldn't degrade or lose its spectral energy. This meant he could find powerful spectral items in the apartment complex, and take them outside the instance for long-term storage. Shaking the dust from his jacket, Lin Yu knew his next task was to pay the fees at the center. On his way, he ran into Madblade and Mushroomhead. The man seemed unusually cheerful. Lin Yu asked about their situation, and Madblade revealed he'd led Mushroomhead to achieve a B rank evaluation. He then boasted about discovering a way to bypass the curfew. This sent a jolt of alarm through Lin Yu. He worried the man had overheard something about the secret society. If so, his own identity would be exposed. But Lin Yu's fears were completely unfounded. It turned out Madblade and Mushroomhead had simply picked up a night shift from the job placement center. The pay wasn't bad, either. Thanks to this, Mushroomhead had already earned the 500 yuan fee for the first day. Lin Yu mused that this intel wasn't entirely useless. At the very least, he now knew some stores remained open at night. Madblade pulled a low-grade comb worth 30 yuan from his pocket, dramatically styling his hair. He declared this was their chance for a comeback. Lin Yu dreaded the thought of having to deal with the overly enthusiastic salesman in the coming days. However, the man wasn't planning on working at the convenience store all day. Before leaving, he even tried to recruit Lin Yu for a part-time job. Lin Yu just smiled and shook his head, thinking to himself, why would he need to work for cash to experience life when he could have as much money as he wanted? And so, after a few chapters, our episode comes to a close. Don't worry, part 2 is coming soon, that's a promise.